All right, we're back. What's going on up here? What's going on? Webcam. There we go. I got that one off. We'll turn this one off for now. There we go. The deadbeat's back. Back again. All right. What we got going on, baby? Anything happening tonight? Nothing happening. Well, we're just here. It's been a rough week and a half about since I last streamed, but I'm trying to feel up to it. Weather's changing, that's always the worst. So let's see what's going on in the world. Nothing too crazy, other than Hassan's been shocking the heck out of his dog to stand one place and be a stream prop. Which I don't get. I don't understand that one whatsoever. But, you know a lot of people that aren't really that great with animals. Learn. People will learn eventually, right, babies? Yeah. People will learn eventually. You think? She thinks. She thinks they'll learn. Yeah. Well. Hey, what are you doing? Can you say hi? Can you say I love you? Can you say I love you? Ah. You know what? Even though it's kind of rough right now, it's been amazing to be able to just be here and be with this baby and with the kids. Be a part of their lives. Oh, you got a little bit of everything, huh? M&M's, chocolate.
It doesn't look like a bottle. Maybe I don't look like.
Yeah.
Dada, you
keep ruining the hairbrush.
Dada,
Stop picking out my
it's
hairbrush
not really.
pins.
It's not really.
It's not really ruined, but it's kind of ruined.
What?
You pulled out half of the bristles on the brush.
Oh, I beg them.
I love you.
Dada, I
love you.
Dada just whipped your hairbrush.
That's okay. I forgive you. I love you.
You give me two, so we're going to boo-boo.
Yeah, I got some boo-boos on my hands.
Oh, you got...
I haven't been able to use my right hand as much either. Even though I'm left-handed. That's a good thing.
Where'd it come from?
Where'd what come from?
What bug?
The bugs?
Yes.
What bugs?
The mosquito.
Oh, you think there's a mosquito bite?
Yeah.
It's not. No, I don't think so. Why?
Oh.
Do you?
Do I think I have it? Of course. I think I have it. Do I actually have it?
Hi, babies. I love you. I love you. He likes the microphone. Okay, let's see what Crazy News X says. If I can even read it. Oregon National Guard made it clear he believes he has a dual duty to protect America and Oregons, and he believes that includes the Antifa protesters. If federalized, he testifies that he would protect the insurgents. From what? Themselves? Oh, you going boo. Boo, it's a big one. Yeah, he's probably gonna lose his job. He's fired. By the citizens of the United States, serves as commander-in-chief. Disobeying a lawful order from the commander-in-chief is treason, and he should face a court-martial. Yeah, he definitely should face a court-martial. Constitution of this is general would definitely be disobeying a lawful order and might be also considered mutiny under the formula. He pooped.
Oh no.
Yeah,
You got time to watch this series.
you should have time. She's probably gonna get a little sad here soon. Does a man honor you to resign? Yeah, he should resign. Hmm. Yeah, that's interesting. Oh, this is a weirdo. These are the people you guys want to protect.
I guess I just wanted to do a slightly awkward conversation.
Creepy pervert man that wants to be a girl child.
I got on, well, I a lot of
Mentally unwell, and you guys are people are trying to justify that and say it's a great thing. Just be yourself. No, that's not yourself. That's psychotic. Hey. Thank you for the follow. Let's keep scrolling. Oh, yeah, LGBTQ for Palestine. T-Dex, that governor, you might want to try push it for two. Yeah, meantime, our troops will do the job you refuse to do. True. It seems like they're just justifying crime. Not really an invasion when it's your own land. Kind of stupid this guy is. I can't believe how many idiot politicians there are and then idiot followers that like cling to their every word. I just don't get it. Like how brain dead you have to be to like listen to these people and their nonsense. That's all it is. They're talking is nonsense. The sombreros will continue and morale improves. I don't know where my phone is. I mean, they're different, but they both have blonde hair. And claims the gangs are linking up to take on the feds. This would be the stupidest thing for gang members to do.
Because the gangs are linking up.
Dumbest thing for them to do.
The gangs.
Because it would bring the hammer down on them. They would bring too much heat. They want money. They don't really care about what happens politically. And if they do, I don't know if they're really gang members then.
I never thought I would have seen it.
They prefer to keep their heads down and make money.
They are coming together to protect.
They're not there to protect anybody. They're there to make profit.
But not for us.
Dumbest take ever. Again, I've seen goldfish smarter than some of these people on the left. Not that I think a lot of people on the right are too smart either. I thought they were already designated as a foreign terrorist organization, Muslim Brotherhood. Swear this was a man. This is hilarious. She already has her neck brace ready with her when it gets knocked out. I guess it's a she, I'm not sure. Pretty ugly, one way or the other. Yeah. Sharia law is a political movement. It's not a religion. Islam is not a religion. It's a cult and a political movement.
Will we pretend that the police station is downstairs?
These people are ridiculous. He obviously shocked the dog. I've had electric fences. That is the sound dogs make when they get shocked when the voltage is too high. You guys really need to stop invoking Palestine. Every time someone like you gets criticized, it doesn't help you, and it certainly doesn't help Palestinians. No, not at all. All I really need to do when someone shuts down any other topic by mentioning either Palestine or effing Nancy Pelosi's husband is to say, well, what about children starving in Africa? What about the dead people in Indonesia? What about the Christians murdered in Nigeria? Which is a huge thing happening right now. Thousands upon thousands of Christians have been murdered in Nigeria. It's crazy how many. But nobody's talking about that. They want to talk about the Palestinians that want to kill Jews. And we could do this every time they talk about anything at this point. It's ridiculous. No one could ever speak about anything. Yeah, it frustrates me too, Metatron. Let's see if this idiot commented again. I don't have an issue with shock collars. I have an issue with the way he is using it to abuse the animal and keep it in place for a prop on stream. That's my biggest issue with Hassan. Yeah, the mask is crumbling on Hassan, like day by day. Just listen to him talk. You can understand all the talking points on the left. And how dumb they sound. Their circular reasoning. What are you doing, Eli? Peace plan that releases all hostages now during peace in the region is possible. Our parties are different, but we have a shared ironclad commitment to Israel and its people. Fetterman is probably the only semi-sane Democrat, and that's saying a lot, sadly. Radical Islamists would like to see every freedom-loving dead. What'd you make? Whoa. Cool.
I followed in.
That's really good, buddy. You did great. It looks awesome. I like it.
No, I had to add some things because I lost something.
Some pieces, but no, you did a good job.
Like you see this part, I had to whip that from another. That's not actually
The lightsaber.
Lightsaber.
Yeah. Eli, no, you can't hold that. You're gonna break it if you touch it. Yeah, you are. You will. And Gabe has been really getting into Legos. It's pretty awesome. I made this. I'm selling this away now. It's gonna be it's the base for a cup, a goblet style cup. I gotta paint it. I think I'm gonna paint black and gold. Well, gold with like black shadowing. But it came out really well. I'm happy about it. I'm not a big Skull fan. This is for somebody. They've requested it for their boyfriend or whatever. Eli, is it time for bed? Are you sure? You're whining a lot. Yeah, I'd shoot nails at him too. Idiots. Why are people this low? Yeah, you might as well just drive away, dude. People. People. No, thanks for the follow, ad. Dooney. Oh, Hamas demands the body of Yah Sinwar and his brother in negotiation. They're just trying to be like Israel. Israel, it's a religious thing. They have to bring the bodies back, every piece of it that they can collect for a proper burial. Hamas doesn't care about the bodies. That's ridiculous. Yeah, it's not that they can revive him. They'll try to, though. They'll try to revive him and somebody. Put other radical ideologies in other people's heads. Illegals have done nothing to make this country better. Change my mind. I 100% agree. Come and change my mind. I read a statistic that only about 4% of illegals are the ones like picking crops and whatnot. The rest are on like welfare. Like 41%. And that's what these idiots want to protect. Stupid. Stupid. I don't know if that's in America. It might be. Ridiculous. Yeah, they really think love thy neighbors and only verse in the Bible, but it doesn't like that comes after loving God, loving your family, loving your actual neighbors and neighborhood, loving your community, and then loving your state, and then loving your country, and then once you have all that settled and cared for, then you love other countries and whatnot. You don't have hate towards these people, and I don't have hate towards any illegal immigrant. Well, I mean, not hate, but I have disdain for those that are committing violent crimes. Then all of them are criminals for coming here illegally in the first place. And it's another thing the left is trying to lie about, which is sad. These kids. Would you go to get me another soda?
Yeah.
If we have more, that's an if. I'm very proud to announce that Israel and Hamas have both signed off on the first phase of our peace plan. This means that all of the hostages will be released very soon, and Israel will withdraw their troops to an agreed upon line as the first steps toward a strong, durable, and everlasting peace. All parties will be treated fairly. This is a great day for them. I think this is a horrible decision. How are they going to de-radicalize these people that are living there? Like, think about it. All of them are radical. All of them celebrated on October 7th when they went in and murdered, raped, and killed those innocent people. Then these people need to go to jail. Thank you. Mm-hmm. You got bubbly? Like folks, crooks.
They had it all. You know what? Sorry. Like
The governor and the mayor of Chicago need to be investigated. The governor and the mayor of Oregon need to be investigated. And if anything, 1 cent is out of line, they need to be charged. And they need to be tried. And they need to be put in prison. As they are the destruction of our nation. Just gonna get pepperballed in the face. That's what's gonna happen if you cross that line. Greg Bovino, spearheading illegal alien roundups in Chicago, just posted this video of the locals absolutely loving his presence. Gang members in Chicago have placed a bounty on his head. Greg Bovino is crushing it right now. Pepperball bingo. You remember that one guy that in the LA riots when they were rioting against ICE? Well, he got shot with a beanbag and lost a nut. That's going around again. That's kind of funny. Very few. I mean, there's not that many of these Japanese protesters at the Israeli embassy, which is good to see that it's not that many crazy people. Japan's definitely less crazed than America is. Thank you, Naknio, for the follow. Yeah, Japan is... I'm looking forward to seeing what this new prime minister does in Japan, honestly. She's, hopefully gonna kick all the Islamists that are trying to destroy that country out. Because apparently they think everything is theirs. Crazy people, that's what they are. Islam is just one crazy group. I gotta try to get that printed out. I've got a raptor sitting on my desk without a head. I gotta print the head out. Yeah, most likely wouldn't have been shot with pepper balls. If you follow the rules, you won't get shot. Unfortunately, these people are too stupid to even think about following rules and laws. UK is going downhill quick. It's sad. It's sad seeing like the protests. It's sad seeing the protests in New York this weekend about October 7th, or yesterday technically. I'm saying that they need to rally and do it again. Like sick people, sick group of people. They need to leave. Go back to the Middle East. Go back to their Muslim countries. Speaking of the devil, yeah, these. Well, they're gonna learn once they get this communist mayor in place in New York City. They're not gonna really have any businesses staying there, any of the major businesses, because he's gonna try to tax the crap out of them. They're just gonna up and leave. Yeah, this guy knows it to go. He's a corrupt fool. That's rough. I mean, we should always be doing that to our illegal immigrants, just putting them in the middle of the desert. We do have deserts here in America. What is it, Death Valley? Nah. No, when you need to vote with an ID, a legal American ID. Which, you know, some of these illegals can get anyway. They have illegals driving with CDLs. Cheating to pass the tests. Ridiculous. Yes, communists and Muslims should be barred from any office in the United States of America. It's not a religion. It is a political cult-like ideology. Yeah, this is the crazy guy I was talking about. That's wanting to repeat October 7th.
Make a little news on this. I'm pretty close with a lot of people at Homeland Security, and allegedly there's a considerable amount, demonstrable amounts of evidence that the government has that proves this. And perhaps they're like trying to figure out which way to go around it. I know it's got to be a touchy issue, obviously, you know. But what do you say to this, Congresswoman?
A little too touchy for family, but you know, in Congress, it's going to be really difficult to have a real investigation like we should. Look, Nancy Mace bravely put a privileged resolution on the floor condemning the remarks made by Ilhan Omar. And Ilhan Omar was trying to troll everyone in the process leading up to the vote. And she just simply wanted to censure her. She said you should not be on the
Any
Foreign
committees?
Affairs Committee with the rhetoric that you have, and then of course it went against our Congressional Code of Ethics that we agree to when we are signed in as members of Congress, and we
you have a code of ethics. You have a code of ethics that says you can't marry your brother.
You know that might need to be put in. But we definitely have a code
I think that's
of
in the
ethics.
Bible. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a state lot of state laws.
Bible.
Yes.
And constitutional, or not constitutional,
you had
but federal
Republicans
laws.
block that. You had Republicans table this motion, maybe some making excuses for the First Amendment. The First Amendment doesn't protect you from consequences. And when you have a code of ethics that you are using your office to absolutely
doesn't.
defy, there needs to be a
Just like the Jimmy Kimmel numbers, they're dropping like rock.
Covering their own backs to keep other stories down. I don't know the reasons why people were voting to table this motion, but to have an actual investigation, I don't know if we have a strong enough Republican Party at this time to actually commit to that and get
not until the midterm.
But this is someone who absolutely should be investigated. I think she should be sitting in prison or at least sent back to Somalia, rather than George Santos being put in solitary confinement for telling a fib, years back. This is, that was gross that he was expelled from Congress, and the charges that he got. I'm advocating for Santos's pardon, and I would much rather see Ilhan Omar having consequences for her conduct rather than him.
Yeah. I mean, it's just it very much does reveal the soul of a person. How you treat somebody who's deceased, like that tells you everything. Like how she's treated Charlie Kirk after his horrific death at the hands of a left-wing radical.
Nothing to do with people that talk negatively about him afterlife.
From U.S. Immigration Services, marriage fraud is a crime. They're just reminding us here.
It is.
They've sent a number of posts, a number of bangers actually out about this. I don't know if they're trying to send a message. I don't know. Report marriage fraud here.
Interesting. I think we need to make some reports, Benny. Okay. You have quite the following. I think we could get a few reports made on this one.
I guess we'll see. Thank you, Congresswoman. Obviously, this is something. All of these topics are very interesting, but man, Victor Marx, I'm gonna hit him up, man. This is awesome. Very exciting times.
An amazing man.
Very exciting times.
His wife is going to be right alongside of him, and she's even more powerful. And really, the encouraging voice behind him going into ISIS territory, rescuing women and children, because he told her it was a suicide mission, and she said, "I would rather be a widow than married to a coward."
It's awesome. Oh, Bernie Sanders. This loser. Bernie Sanders all talk about socialism, but benefits off of capitalism. Hasn't distributed or helped anybody in his life. Our healthcare system is broken. We are the only majority country not to guarantee healthcare for all. Trump wants to make this horrific situation even worse, doubling insurance premiums and throwing $15 million off of Medicaid and the ACA. We can't let that happen. Dems don't fold. Yeah, Bernie. And you've been in politics for decades and haven't fixed it. You're the problem, Bernie. I 100% agree about Tina Gomez. Love her. She is a little wild, but I love her. Oh yeah, this is Dearborn. Have you guys heard about Dearborn, Michigan? The Muslim town in America. Three minutes later. One police officer, 2, 3, 4 police officers.
Look at this. They weren't here 3 minutes.
5, 6, 7, 8 police officers.
Whoa, 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 whoa.
Telling them they can't do that in front of the fair.
Yes, sir. I'm gonna have to you turn off the camera. Okay. Okay, and you're gonna have to walk with me, okay?
Yeah, they can't do that anymore.
So,
No.
I'll turn it off. I'll turn it off. Okay, you're gonna have to come on.
Yeah.
All right. As you just saw, two of my friends walked over to the Arab Festival, outside of the Arab Festival, and tried to distribute copies of the Gospel of John in English and Arabic, and they were stopped immediately outside the festival. You didn't see what happened afterwards, but they took us to the security booth, they photographed us, they took our IDs, got the information, took our camera, his cell phone for a little while. They let us go and just explain the rules to us. But what the rule is, it seems, is not that you can't distribute copies of the Gospel of John inside the festival. It also applies outside the festival. They told us we would have to go at least 5 blocks away if we
Ridiculous.
wanted to distribute anything. So
This is years ago. This is a very old video. It's gotten worse.
Hand out information on a public sidewalk here in Dearborn.
Yeah, Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson fired back at President Donald Trump's call to arrest him for obstruction of justice, playing the race card, of course, on the color of his skin instead of the content of his anti-law enforcement positions. Yep. True, liberals see racism where it does not exist, fabricate it when they can't, find it and ignore it when it is one of their own. You know, I did see a, let's see if I can bring it up. Not Gabe's files, hang on. I saved it because it was a pretty powerful picture, I thought. And this is what liberals fight for. Why didn't mommy want me, Jesus? Because she didn't believe in me. I think that's a very powerful picture. A very powerful anti-abortion picture. Because we believe, I believe specifically that it's murder. And if you don't, then you don't really know the value of human life or the potential for human life. Welcome to Chicago.
the streets of his state. The same President Trump did in Los Angeles. The same he did. Governor Pritzker should be calling President Trump up and thanking him for taking over 1,000 criminal aliens off the streets of his state.
Yeah.
The same President Trump did in Los Angeles. The same he did in Washington, D.C. The same we're doing in other cities. We're there to make this city safer. And you think
People do understand they're not just going to blue cities, right, and deporting. They're in Texas deporting. They don't have to call the National Guard in because the police are supporting them in those cities.
Watch us do it, but we're going to be out there tonight. We're going to be out there tomorrow. And, thank God for Governor Abbott. He's sending troops out there to help protect.
Maybe if, the police weren't actually corrupt and standing by and letting these Antifa thugs do whatever they want.
President Trump's doing the right thing. We're going to continue doing the right thing. We are not
and giving assistance to the ICE officers and other federal law enforcement that's out there. They wouldn't have to call in National Guard. Sheesh. That dude got messed up. That one got messed up too. Holy cow. Good left. I already saw most of this. I'm good at Dooney. Delete. I'll just keep up the time for chatters on Kick. It's been nothing but bots on Kick, honestly. Sad. Sad that it's been nothing but bots. What are we at? What are we at on chat settings? 10 minutes? Alright, we'll go to 15. Bots ruin it for people. Bots ruin it for everybody.
Would be good stuff.
George of Beltan, again, just 100 years after Muhammad, showed Christians exactly how to respond.
Not if Muhammad was truly alive.
We didn't corrupt our scriptures, but by flipping the charge back on Islam itself. This discovery also blows up a very common objection we're hearing today, that the Islamic dilemma is just a cheap apologetic trick cooked up by Western apologists on YouTube. No, that's not
you think it's a trick? That's because there's an issue with the Quran.
Already spotting this very same problem, and they didn't just spot it; they built apologetic defenses for their people around it. And
yeah, I have to say, everyone, this is kind of an important point. See, none of us got the Islamic dilemma from like early Christians. You had a couple of stages in the past couple decades. So even in like the 90s and before that, 80s and 90s, and I'm sure before that, but that's I've got the stuff that was out in the 80s and 90s. You had Christians using they hadn't weaponized it. They weren't using it as a dilemma to say that Islam is false either way. They were using it to point out that Muslims shouldn't be attacking the Bible the way they do, right? So it's, you had Ahmed Deedat and all these guys attacking the Bible, Zakir Naik eventually, and so on. And you had some Christians are pointing out, hey, why are you attacking the Bible that your Quran affirms? You need to have a more favorable view
of the Christian scriptures than you have, because your God and your prophet did. So you're actually going against your God and your prophet here. Then it became weaponized. It's, hey, this actually shows that Islam is false.
Oh.
And so you could say, well, where did people get this idea that the Quran affirms the Bible? You'll have Muslims who think this is something new. Cameron's right. You'll have Muslims thinking, oh, this is just something new these guys made up. Well, what if Christians have been noticing this for many, many centuries? Why would all these Christians who weren't copying each other, no one's copying this dude, they just found the document, right?
Mhm.
So no one's copying it from this dude. How did multiple generations of Christians over the centuries see the exact same problem when they read the Quran?
Because it's in the
Because
Quran.
there's a problem here. We're the Quran noticers. What?
Nothing.
We're noticing.
Also, it strengthens the credibility of the dilemma itself, because when an argument emerges naturally out of history, when it's not invented by a bunch of YouTubers, but discovered actually in the first encounters between
Talking trash
Christians
about
and
YouTubers?
Muslims, that's actually
What?
Look at that. He's attacking you, man. What is this?
Yeah. Hey, yeah, it'll be funny. And this isn't something that's invented by a bunch of dumb loser Christian apologists on YouTube.
Call it
No.
the Islamic dilemma.
I can't say your name, but thanks, L.
like defenses
Let's check
for
this
their
For the
people
follow.
around it. And also, it strengthens the credibility of the dilemma itself, because when an argument emerges naturally out of history, when it's not invented by a bunch of YouTubers, but
Isn't that
Oh
funny?
yeah, they found documents
When it
from
emerges
for this
naturally out
dilemma
of history and is not invented by a bunch of
happening
loser
forever.
YouTubers, then
100
you
years
can
after
actually take
Muhammad
it
was
seriously.
YouTubers.
supposedly around. They found
Apologetic.
documents of a
Cameron, you're a YouTuber, man. You should
some
be dissing
popular
that would be like him sitting here and not invented by some
saint,
idiot
or
Italians.
not saint, but
Like, why would you be attacking
priest
yourself?
that was
man?
already doing this. This Islamic dilemma.
Yeah, we will.
I'm bringing it to attention.
actually in the first encounters between Christians and Muslims, that's actually evidentially powerful. It shows us that this isn't us forcing something onto the Quran. It's
Definitely not in the Zoot sense of forcing something on
actually us recognizing what Christians have
I don't
always
really know that the
recognized.
Zoot were forced.
Islam is self-defeating on its own terms.
That
Now,
is-
at this point, some people might object. They might say, well, hold on, George of Beltan
I
wasn't
think
actually
Muhammad
making
was more than
free
willing
Islamic
for the
dilemma. He
Zoot
was just
to
arguing against
ride
corruption
him
of
for the
the
night.
gospel. Now, I thought a lot about this objection, but here's the thing. He was doing a lot more than just that. Okay, after giving
doesn't
his
matter what he
positive
was doing.
criteria for gospel reliability.
What'd you say?
It doesn't matter why he was doing it and what he was doing. He quite nicely actually points out the dilemma here. you know?
Mhm.
He ends his chapter with this declaration, quote, "Therefore, every book in which all these things are collected is the perfect and complete truth." He's referring to the 5 criteria for gospel reliability. And everything that is lacking from them is either entirely false or imperfect. That's not merely like a, hey guys, don't worry about this, our texts are fine statement. That's George going a lot further. He's affirming the gospel accounts as the full truth and drawing a line in the sand. If the gospels are true and Tarif is false, then the Quran, which
Did he talk about drawing a line in the sand?
He literally just brought up the drawing.
The
of
Zoot.
sand. He's just doing it on purpose now.
Guys, come on.
Cameron, what is this?
You serious? Cameron, you've got a sick, evil, dirty mind. You try not to make it obvious, but you know when people watch your stuff, you know what people are going to be thinking, right? If like everything you're saying is, if look, here's Cameron, and so this new argument is banging.
Yeah. Like the Zoot.
This new argument makes you just want to proclaim it everywhere, you know, up on the mountains, out in the desert. And while you're in the desert with all that sand, you want to draw a line in the sand. And then you'll say, he didn't just cross that line, did he? Come on, that's what you sound like, Cameron.
Yeah.
Like every okay, here he goes again, guys.
They got Zoot on the mind.
perfect and complete truth. He's referring to the 5 criteria for gospel reliability. And everything that is lacking from them is either entirely false.
So Muhammad got the
or
power of 30
imperfect.
men.
That's not merely like a, hey guys, don't worry about this, our texts are fine statement. That's George going a lot further. He's affirming the gospel accounts as the full truth and drawing a line in the sand. If the
Some would call it the Diddy line. Don't cross the line.
The Diddy line.
George is saying, don't cross
The
this
cuck
line or
line.
you'll be destroyed. Terrible, 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 terrible. Creepy, creepy, weird sense of humor these Italians have.
Gospels are true and Tarif is false, then the Quran, which contradicts them, cannot stand. In other words, George supplies the bones of the
I was that close, man. This this almost went all over the screen. I had to pause. George draws a line in the sand and then provides the bones.
Yeah, Dustin sits behind the Diddy line, and Hassan crosses it for the 30-minute Valzout.
Come on, man. Okay, no interruption.
And everything that is lacking from them is either entirely false or imperfect. That's not merely like a, hey guys, don't worry about this, our texts are fine statement. That's George going a lot further. He's affirming the gospel accounts as the full truth and drawing a line in the sand. If the gospels are true and Tarif is false, then the Quran, which contradicts them, cannot stand. In other words, George supplies the bones of the Islamic dilemma. The Quran appeals to the Gospels as authoritative, but their truth puts Islam on a collision course with itself. And also remember, we don't have
putting it
all
into perspective. Muhammad drew the line in the sand, and then the Zut provided the bones, and the next day Muhammad couldn't stand.
Yep. He couldn't stand, and that put Muhammad on a collision course. What?
I'm sorry. Let's continue.
I didn't say it. He said it. Look.
The Gospels are true and Tarif is false, then the Quran, which contradicts them, cannot stand. In other words, George supplies the bones of the Islamic dilemma. The Quran appeals to the Gospels as authoritative, but their truth puts Islam on a collision course with itself. And also remember, we don't have all of George's works. It's entirely possible that he made this conclusion explicit elsewhere in his other writings. But what
well, if Candace gets a dream, then we'll know it happened.
we do have is certainly enough. He already gave us everything we need to reach that conclusion.
Like the Zut
Another
gave
objection
Muhammad
goes,
everything he
well,
needed.
in Surah 1094, the previous scriptures in view are only the stories
From
of
back
the
Zut Mountain.
prophets. I actually
what it
made an
says.
entire video response to this objection, which I've got linked in the description. You guys can go watch it if you're interested. In short, this objection doesn't work because those stories of the prophets also contradict the Quran, so it doesn't help. Another common objection is, well, corruption solves the problem. The Bible was altered, but George dismantled that literally 12 centuries ago. Okay, if corruption happened before Muhammad, then, as George points out beautifully, and perfectly in line with the Islamic dilemma, Surah 1094 absolutely makes no sense if corruption happened before Muhammad. If corruption had happened after Muhammad, that's actually impossible because no universal synod of Greeks, Arabs, Persians, and Syrians ever got together to rewrite the gospel. As George puts it, since the rise of Islam, no synod has taken place in which the nations decided to alter the gospel because it is the same to all of them. That leads.
Hey guys, we've already mentioned this, but super important point that everyone needs to have ready, especially when Muslims are saying your Bible's been corrupted, and you ask questions: who, what, when, where, how, why, how. How did it happen? On that how issue, unless you want to say the original Christians corrupted it, which, as we've seen, you can't say as a Muslim because the original followers, the followers of Jesus, were devout Muslims according to Islam. And Allah is promising to protect them. So they're going to be doing a good job. After that time, the Bible spreads rapidly all over the place, and Christians didn't have some kingdom at this point where you have a ruler who can impose his will on Christians everywhere. You had Christians in Africa, you had Christians in Europe, You had Christians in the Middle East. You very quickly had Christians all the way over in India. Who is in a position, if you're not saying the originals were there was corrupted from the beginning, who is ever in a position to corrupt the gospel all the way from Europe into Africa, across the Middle East, all the way over into India? Who is there? Who had the kind of power that would be required to corrupt it everywhere? No one. No one ever had that kind of power or authority. You know who did have that kind of power and authority? Uthman. You have in Islam someone who had the ability to say, we're corrupting this now. We're changing it now. We're doing it now. But Muslims won't even be slightly suspicious of Uthman. If, however, within Christianity, we had some ruler who at some point said, you know what, everyone hand over your Bibles, and somehow had the ability to force Christians from across the world to all hand over their Bibles, and then he burned them all, and then he issues a standardized version, that would be Exhibit A every single time they say our book's been corrupted. It would be, look, a guy ordered you guys to hand over your stuff, he burnt it all, and then he issued his own version. That's obvious what's going on there. That's what they would say. But there's never been a Christian leader in that position. There was a Muslim leader in that position.
Us. The only possible alternative here is what I like to call the selective corruption hypothesis, or selective tarif, that just the wrong parts of the Bible were corrupted, the rest are reliable. That falls apart too, guys. Okay, I also addressed this claim in the previous video that I mentioned, linked in the description, but in short, this hypothesis doesn't work because, one, it's completely unevidenced. There's no historical proof that the Bible was selectively altered in just the right places that line up with the Quran. Two, it's completely unfalsifiable. Any verse that contradicts the Quran can just be waved away as corrupt. And then three, this is a circular
This is my last
argument.
one.
It assumes the Quran is accurate in order to defend the Quran. That's not an argument. That's a rational dead end. So the objections don't work. George's argument still stands, and in some ways he said it sharper than we do today. Now, we've covered a lot of ground.
Maybe we should interview that guy sometime.
Sharper than how we do it today?
What's up, Bubby?
Dude wasn't even on YouTube, Cameron. How many live
Not
streams has this
much.
guy been in?
0.
Yeah.
0. How many live streams have D-Wood and AP been in?
Thought
50,000.
Do the math. Who's going to have a better
I
Islamic
thought
dilemma,
it's
Cameron? Do the
Oh,
math. Hey,
I
you know
thought
what
I
I
was
like about
11.
Cameron is
I have to unplug it and plug
he's
it back in,
he's looking
probably.
at the information of the Islamic dilemma, but
There
he
was
kind of
a
like
11
he kind
hours.
of like
I
presents
was
it in his
there-
own way
yes.
versus like
Yeah.
copying the way someone else, which I mean, it's good if someone has a solid argument. It's good to just keep running with that argument, but it's also good to see how we can formulate different versions of arguments and
I'll
stuff
have
like
to
that.
look
So,
at it.
anyway. Good stuff.
So let me just boil all this down, right? Here's what you need to remember.
It's doing
from
its
this
own
video.
thing.
George of Beltan, writing in the 700s, just a century after Muhammad, was already dismantling the charge of Tarif, and in the process,
Well, I've
sketching
messed
out
with
the
it then.
bones of what we now call the Islamic dilemma. In challenging Tarif, he asked absolutely killer questions.
Yeah,
still
but
may
that
be
one's
asking today.
specifically
When
for
was
you.
the gospel corrupted? Who did it? Why would they do it? And what exactly was changed? No Muslim could answer them then, and no Muslim can
how?
answer them now.
That's also very important, guys. Cameron's pointing out, hey, we bring up the Islamic dilemma. This was understood by Christians centuries ago. Guess what?
It should be clear to all Americans that we have a very serious left-wing terror threat in our country. Radicals associated with the domestic terror group Antifa that you've heard a lot about lately, and I've heard a lot about them for 10 years. And other far-left extremists have been carrying out a campaign of violence against ICE agents and other officials charged with enforcing federal law.
Yeah.
In Chicago, anarchists have surveilled at least 4 local ICE facilities and posted diagrams of the buildings online, meaning nothing but bad.
So you posted them? What happened? What happened to people that posted that stuff?
accompanied by photos of specific ICE agents that
Where
they're
are they?
targeting. One in particular who's a top person and a great patriot.
Yeah.
In July, approximately a dozen Antifa-aligned militants stormed the ICE facility in Texas and then lured officers out of the building before firing dozens of rounds at police. They were crazy, frankly, shooting one Texas officer in the neck.
Why aren't they dead?
And in Portland, Oregon.
That's my question. So if you have people that are shooting federal officers, why are they not dead? Because there's either two options of why they're not dead. Number one is that the officers can't aim. Number two is that you told them not to shoot them. Both of these answers, I think, are completely unfair. I do. And it's weakness. Yeah, exactly, right? And because it didn't happen in Florida. Well, I mean, if they're federal officers, they can do what they want, right? I mean, they're not going to listen to the, the state laws. They operate according to the federal government. So, yeah, it's hard to aim when shot. Well, I mean, plenty of people do it all the time. It's optics. Yeah, exactly. And so I see this happen, and it's ridiculous.
Antifa thugs have repeatedly attacked our officers and laid siege to federal
Thanks for the
property
gifted
in
subs,
an
guys. I
attempt to
appreciate it.
violently stop the execution of federal law.
That's
Everything we're
true.
doing is very lawful. What they're doing is not lawful.
Well, then why aren't
It
they
should be-
arrested? That's the problem. This is why I'm so frustrated with Trump and with the way that they're handling Antifa. Is that so? You designated them a terrorist organization. You have decided they're attacking officers. They're doxing officers. They're putting their lives in danger. They're doing all these bad things. Because it doesn't exist, bro, it's a lie? Well, no, I've seen it. I've literally seen it myself on Twitter. I've seen comments like this that should get people put in jail. Definitely. There's people posting, doxing agents, trying to say that to shoot them, etc. And nothing ever happens to these people. So stop spreading lies. No, I on Twitter, yeah. I mean, I've seen on Twitter, absolutely. Well, don't you understand that seeing it on Twitter is evidence that it's happening? The fact that they're discussing this and talking about this on Twitter, I mean, guys, I'm sorry to say, but advocating for and doxing federal agents and saying where they live and saying to kill them and shoot them, this is illegal. It's not freedom of speech. It's never been freedom of speech. So there's a follow-up clip to this. Let's go ahead and watch this one too. Here we go.
The epidemic of left-wing violence and Antifa-inspired terror has been escalating for nearly a decade.
It's true.
At universities, Antifa has organized riotous mobs to attack campus speakers. I see it all the time. And these are agitators, anarchists, and they're paid. And you'll find that out. You'll be finding it out very soon. You should see what we have on these people. These are bad people. These are people that want to destroy our country. We're not going to let it happen. They've used armed gangs to assault local police in cities nationwide, and they've attacked journalists reporting on their crimes. So the journalists that report on their crimes, don't worry, you're very safe. I hope that's not going to turn you around. But
they are going to do that, and he does need to. I think the police needs to be more aggressive with those people. They definitely do.
Have been very threatening to people, but we're going to be very threatening to them, far more threatening to them than they ever were with us, and that includes the people that fund them. The epidemic...
No, he's right about this, and I think it's a huge, huge problem. Let's see if I can find any more of this.
Under the last administration, the Department of Justice targeted faithful Catholics, Christians, and patriotic parents as domestic extremists. They said, oh, they're extreme. Because they believe in God. They're extreme because they go to a Catholic church or evangelicals.
I heard about this, but I don't know how valid
Everybody
it is.
was under the gun. Unless you were a really bad, sick person, then they left you alone. Under the Trump administration, we're going after Antifa criminals and all who fund and support their campaigns.
Not enough.
In serious trouble, and we have a lot of
serious trouble.
Records
Where is
already,
it?
a lot of surprises, a lot of bad surprises. It's people that you would never think.
I'm waiting for the surprise. It's been going on for a while, and the only surprise I've had is that you haven't done anything. These topics are too divisive to claim that it is purely Antifa. Why would it matter if it was purely Antifa or not? If there's somebody who's burning down a car or throwing rocks at the officers, they should go to jail no matter what. I don't really care about whether they're Antifa or not. Why? Like, this is what I was saying before about people that get obsessed with these definitions. They get obsessed with, like, explaining the semantics of things. This is a red herring, and it's meant to distract from the actual problem. The problem isn't what word they use. It's not what shirt they're wearing. It's what they're doing.
As you made clear, Antifa is a domestic left-wing terrorist organization. We've seen them on video for years.
It should have been classified as that during the BLM riots. They are so late to this.
Because they wanted to be seen and they got away with it. They beat journalists. They attacked courthouse.
Correction, getting away with it. They did not get away with it. They are getting away with it.
They attack
happening right
police
now.
stations. They dox and assault
If
our
they
law.
attack a police, why are they alive? Are the police officers incompetent? They can't shoot somebody attacking their police station? Or are you lying? Which one is it? Are the police officers retarded or are you lying? Because in my opinion, I think if you go to a police station, and you are attacking the police officers there, the only way that they should be taking you out of that place is in a body bag. This is insane. Why should anybody be tolerating this at all? This is supposed to be a civilized first world country that is peaceful and has a degree of harmony in it. We can't have these animals running around, being violent, burning down cars, destroying property, and saying that the law doesn't apply to them. This is like Mad Max. I don't want to live in that world. It's disgusting. So why is anybody putting up with this for even a second? It's bad optics to shoot, though I agree. It's bad optics from who? The people that are already calling you a Nazi and saying that they should kill you anyway and saying that you should go to jail? Like, what do you mean? So you're trying to seek the approval of people that fucking hate you and are already trying to subvert you and make you lose. Why the fuck would you think about how they think about things? It's bad optics not to shoot them. It's like, people care about optics from people that want to beat them. If you are trying to win the approval of people that want to beat you, you will always lose because you're effectively putting your fate in their hands. Why would they voluntarily agree that you're winning? It's just, this is unbelievable to me that people think like this. Oh my God.
Enforcement officers. The Biden administration let them commit these crimes with total impunity for years. So did Democrat leaders like Pritzker and Mayor Brandon Johnson. Last week, independent journalist Nick Sorter was arrested just for protecting himself against Antifa. I saw it online and I called Nick. I couldn't believe what happened. He did all this just trying to save our American flag from being burned. He was pushed down and assaulted, yet the local police arrested Nick, not the Antifa thugs who did this to him.
Why are they not arrested for arson?
They should be.
So, are you saying that the Portland police are allowing arson in the state, in the city? I mean, are they
Went
doing
downstairs, I think.
Because you can't just, by the way, you can burn an American flag. You can do that. It's fine. I have no problem with that, and I'll defend that. You should be able to burn, if you want to buy an American flag and you want to burn your own flag on your own property, I think you have every right in the entire fucking Constitution to do it. But if you go out in public and you're burning an American flag, you're burning a trans flag, you're burning a Palestine flag, or
You
you're
should get in
burning
trouble
a
for
Confederate
arson.
flag, you should go to jail. Or at least you should be arrested. Because this is arson. It's arson. You can't go around lighting fires in public randomly. This is insane. So why is this even happening at all? Trump made it illegal, methinks. I think that was so stupid.
Yeah, it was
Burning
kind of a
everything.
waste
Yeah,
of
exactly.
executive
It could be
order.
a bag of McDonald's. You can't go and light that on fire either.
No.
Man, you got to look at the chain of command regarding why police did something or not. Instructions going from the top. Most of the time, people that want votes could be the mayor or someone like that. Well, Trump is the president. You just withhold federal funding. Like, if I was Trump, that's what I would do. I would say that you either have to enforce the law and arrest these people, or we are going to withhold all funding, invoke the Insurrection Act, and then put all of you in jail. That's what I would do. And I would do it in 24 hours. I wouldn't wait. I would say either start doing it right this second or we're doing it right now. It will be too fast for a court order to stop it. It won't be able to go through a fucking legislative process. You'll be in jail by the time that anybody even knows about this. Communist behavior? Yeah, it needs to be sometime. That's what I would do.
Thank you, Lola.
It's not arson unless you're burning somebody else's property. It's almost certainly an ordinance violation. Well, it's against the law to start fires in public, very obviously, right? I mean, or you'd be seeing people starting fires in public all the time. And this isn't like having a barbecue at a state
burn barrels,
at a state park. It's very obvious. So yeah, you can't
what the homeless doing movies.
Yeah, of course, right? And depends on where exactly.
Burn,
used the wrong
burn
word.
trash
Yeah,
cans.
it's obviously against the law. I was wrong. He tried to make it illegal, but it didn't work, and the bill stalled and fizzled out. Still legal to do. Yeah, but there's an underlying problem that is illegal. So anyway, let's go back on. Not arguing about that, but mayors or someone like that is against Trump and is voting for that. So that's not exactly the police's fault, but the politicians. I understand that. And actually, you know what? I want to talk about your comment for a minute because I think that you do bring up a really great point, is that the police officers, the Portland police officers, each individual police officer is not your enemy.
No.
The police chief might be your enemy, but the main enemy is the politicians that are giving them directives.
Yeah,
Those
saying
are the
stand
people
down.
that are the real enemies.
They're the
Because
issue.
Those are the ones the police listen to. The police are just simply they're doing what they're told. Like, they want to keep their job. They don't want to get in trouble. They don't want to get fired. So, yeah, obviously, they're going to do what they're told to do.
Mm-hmm.
The mayor and the governor? Yeah, exactly. Chicago PD was told to stand down. Exactly.
Yep, that's what I was talking about. Chicago, especially.
They are.
Corruption is rampant in that system.
Democrats have turned a blind eye
They
to
need
their
to
actions.
investigate
Their
both
hatred
the mayor and the governor of Illinois and
order
Chicago.
agendas fuels their violence.
And
We've seen more than 1,000%,
find anything and everything that is out of line. If 1 cent is missing,
against our ICE agents
they need to
since
charge them,
January 20th.
then put them in
Secretary
jail.
Noem is out there fighting for you firsthand to keep our federal officers safe, to keep our federal...
Trump should just go full dictator, no compromise. That's not being a dictator. That's what's so hard for people to understand.
Yeah.
This is a constitutional republic, and the federal government has overriding power on most things that regard states' ability to, have determination.
Especially
Now,
when
there are
states
some
aren't
things that states can
enforcing
always do,
laws.
but the federal government has other levers that they can pull to counteract that as well. I'm not advocating for Trump to add new laws. I'm not advocating for Trump to do things
Enforce
that
the
are illegal.
laws.
I'm advocating for Trump to employ the laws that exist that are made to counteract problems like a rogue government, problems like a state that is
The Insurrection
openly
Act
trying
needs
go
to be
against the
enabled.
federal government. We've already gone through this with the Civil War. I'm not asking for something new. I'm not asking for, we need.
We're
more
not here to
speech
take
laws.
rights
No, I'm
away
just
or
asking
anything like
just
that.
apply the rules,
Yep.
and that's it. Second Amendment prevents this kind of authoritarian shit. Exactly, it does. Like, we're not talking about it being authoritarian. This is insane. And also, by the way, we want to use the word authoritarian. Isn't it authoritarian for the Portland police to be weaponized by the politicians in order to allow chaos in the state, in the city, and
All
just
right, Brad.
that's okay? Because this is also like, what is
Thanks, but I'm good.
authoritarianism? Authoritarianism is effectively the weaponization and the politicalization of a power structure, right? That's effectively what it is. And I would argue that not doing anything is the same type of weaponization as being a dictator or arresting your political opponents, because in both cases, you are effectively avoiding what the rules should be in order to replace them with what you think is a better idea.
Mm-hmm.
That's fundamentally what you're doing. So these are just two different brands of authoritarianism. But people think that it's not authoritarianism because it's the absence of authority. But the absence of authority, I do think, is authoritarianism
Mhm.
because it is at a fundamental level a blatant manipulation, a politicalization, and an abuse of authority.
Building safe, and we're not going to have it anymore, these
what I think.
thugs. We saw what's happening in Portland and Chicago, and you saw what happened in Dallas.
I wonder when they're coming to Philly.
No longer. This is not activism, it's anarchy. We can't and
Looking
we will
forward
not
to it.
let masked terrorists burn our buildings, attack our law enforcement, and intimidate our communities. Under your leadership, President Trump, we're deploying the full might of the federal law enforcement to crack down on Antifa and other domestic terrorist organizations.
Yeah, this
led by
Rico.
Stephen Miller. And
Rico
Stephen,
them.
thank you for
When do you think the
Rico the heck out of
Never.
you're doing. Last week, I
Antifa
issued
and their
a memo
donors.
ordering our federal law enforcement agents, DEA, FBI,
never.
U.S. Marshals, and ATF to protect
That's what
ICE
they did for the
officers
modest
from
one that I
Antifa
read.
and other radical
That's how they got 'em.
left-wing violence.
Sure.
Director
Thought they
Patel
made sure
has
they'd
been
never come
going
back.
non-stop. He and Deputy Attorney General Blanche were in Chicago yesterday. While Secretary Noem was in Portland, we are around this country fighting against this domestic terrorism.
Mhm.
We had Apple and Google take down the ICE block apps. Hope they continue to comply with that. It's threatening the safety of our federal law enforcement officers. We're not going to stop at just arresting the violent
Yeah, that's good. I mean, they should have never
Yeah.
had those apps up to begin with.
criminals we can see in the streets.
We should have to pay a fine for that, honestly.
Getting the bad guy off the streets. It's breaking
Aiding
down
and abetting.
the organization brick by brick.
Well, why aren't the people so if the app is putting the lives of federal officers in danger enough to where you can get it removed from Google, why is the person who made the app not arrested and in jail?
Mm-hmm.
Why are they not being held in jail or at least out on bail?
They might be.
Why is that happening? Why not? They have apps for speed traps.
I heard
Well,
they did the Palisade Fire
remedy for
person.
a
They caught
speed
him.
trap is to slow down and follow the law. The remedy for the ICE app is to impede a federal investigation. That's the difference. I mean, I understand that, like, if you don't think about it, yeah, they do seem the same, but they're not. They're not the same at all.
Just like we did with cartels, we're going to take the same approach, President Trump, with Antifa. Destroy the entire organization from top to bottom. We're going to take them apart. Thanks to your bold
Brick
leadership
by
and the
brick.
designation of Antifa as a
Gotchas? No, I think that, but that's a fair question. It's a fair question, sure.
terrorist organization, which is exactly what they are, Americans will no longer tolerate their unhinged violence.
Yeah, I'll believe it when I see it. Yeah, I'll believe it when I see all of those people that are going and screaming and getting in the way of the cars, getting systematically arrested and apprehended and then put in jails. Until I see that happen, I'm not going to take these people seriously at all. I'm sorry to say. And yeah. And what about the Epstein files? They're not. It doesn't. The Epstein files don't matter anymore.
Yep.
They don't. And let me explain why. It's because if Trump releases them and Trump isn't in them, people are just going to say they're fake. And if the Democrats release them and Bill Clinton isn't in them, they're just going to say they're fake. So the trust that has been built with the government and the public to accurately be able to release these files has been broken. It has been broken. And there is no way that the files can be released without there being a huge amount of people that I would say like a massive contingency of people that think that they're fake, edited, changed in one way or another. That's a bad take?
No, it's a logical
I
take.
do care, but I recognize the reality of the situation. I made multiple videos, over a dozen videos about the Epstein situation, but I also recognize that the way Trump has handled it has broken the trust of the public, I think permanently, with the federal government of being able to deal with this issue. And I think that no matter what they do, even if Trump releases all of the files and he says everything is released and that's it, if the people that the public believes are on the list are not on the list, they're going to be mad.
Yeah.
And they're not going to accept it. That's fine.
No,
Release them
they're gonna.
anyway. Okay, that's fine with me. If you want to do that, like, I agree with you. I think they should release everything that they have. But you also have to acknowledge that what I'm saying, I think, is true. I think that even if they do release it, it will not be accepted by the opposite political party that's in power while they're being released. That's it. Similar to the Hassan shot caller situation, it is, exactly. And this is the thing that I, like, a lot of people, this is the problem that I think a lot of people have whenever they try to understand politics, is that they read graphs, they try to read books, and they try to, like, learn all these statistics and all of this stuff, and it doesn't matter. None of that stuff is real. What really matters is what people think and how people feel. Because politics isn't really what the difference is. It's people that are the difference. It's people that matter. So if you can understand how people think, you can understand the direction of politics. And unfortunately, most people make and they anchor their opinion very early on, and even whenever they're provided with indisputable evidence of the contrary, they will not change their opinion. They won't. Even if they are proven wrong, they won't change their opinion. And I think you've seen this time and time again with right-wing and left-wing issues constantly. Like you, bro? No, it's not like me. I'm different. And I think that everybody knows that. But so that's all there is to it. That's confirmation bias. Yes. Your take is right, but they still need to release the file. Public opinion takes second priority to justice. But you don't understand. Like, I agree with you. I agree with you. They should release everything that they possibly have, and they should get rid of as many of these people as possible. I totally agree with you. But what I'm saying is that while that is something I agree with, I recognize the futility in doing so. If you can't understand that, I don't know what to tell you. But that's where I'm at. Gun to your head, is Trump in the Epstein files? No, I don't think he is. Too many eyewitnesses have said that he wasn't. Ghislaine Maxwell said that he wasn't, and multiple other witnesses that were victims of Epstein said that he wasn't. How could I know more than they do? Really?
Nope, he's pulling them up.
Like, I mean, no. Ask, really, what's the question? Bro got a bag to say that? Why would I be paid to say that? You're going to trust the human trafficking queen? Well, who would you trust? Your opinion? A politician
your
that's
speculation
running against him that says that he's
Candace Owens.
Like, who would you trust? I would trust the evidence, but there's no evidence that proves it.
Yeah, there's only evidence against it.
If Trump was on the Epstein list, I would want him arrested and put in jail. I just don't think
If
that
Trump
there's
was on the
evidence that
Epstein
he
list, the Democrats would have released it last year
Now, there
or
might
the
be
year
hidden
before.
evidence, and he could be, but from everything that I've seen publicly, it seems like he's not.
Well, the Democrats would have released it
So what?
on his itinerary.
Okay. Then, this is the reason, like, I like Elon, but, like, if he was in it, then why are you hanging out with him during Charlie Kirk's funeral, sitting right next to him, if you think this guy's a child rapist pedophile? Really, like, take a step farther about this and realize that, yeah, people just get mad and they talk shit about each other. That's the way it is. Like, Trump has talked shit about other people. Elon talks shit about Trump. Like, where's the logic here?
There is none. They're just looking for
The only
a
thing that
smoking.
I care about, really, is about understanding
smoking
what
gun.
is logically true. Please don't give up on pushing for the release of the Epstein files, brother. I think they should release them too. But I will admit to you that based off of my temperature check, and again, this is a vibe check. I'm making this up. I'm making this up completely. I don't think the public will accept it whenever they do get released.
The public won't.
That's it. Let me go back. Elon crashed out on you too? Yeah, he did. He did. And so that's the reason why I would think it too. Democrats didn't release anything? Yeah, of course.
Exactly.
Where do you draw the line with Trump? He's committed very obvious crimes, ranging from trying to overthrow 2020 election and at least a very honest services fraud.
He is not
services fraud at all. Absolutely not. Why would I give a fuck about that? So
people are ridiculous.
they can't accept there's two gender. No wonder you feel that way, bro. Yeah, I mean, and again, I don't make my decision based off of how I feel. I generally try to make my decision based off of what makes sense and what the facts try to prove. Now, sometimes I think that the facts are, aggravated or aggregated in a way that's inaccurate. Sure. And if people want to believe that, that's fine. But at the same time, a lot, like all of these eyewitness accounts, there's nobody that's saying that he was there. I think that says a lot. Anyway, let's move on. We'll get back to this.
Well, thank you, Mr. President, and thank you for hosting today and focusing on Antifa and the terrorists that they are. Let's not make any mistake. These individuals do not just want to threaten our law enforcement officers, threaten our journalists, and the citizens of this country. They want to kill them. Their agenda is to destroy the American people and our way of life, and this president is standing in their way. He is stopping them from bringing their death and their destruction to the individual citizens in this country that just want to raise their kids and their grandkids in peace and in safety. I want to also thank everyone around this table for being so bold and so brave, for standing up and recognizing the threat that Antifa is to our way of life. By recognizing how advanced they are, how sophisticated their networks are, how they've infiltrated our entire country, and we're seeing them play out with their tactics from city to city, and how they have built out their funding mechanisms. And, sir, I also want to thank our Treasury Secretary for his work in getting to the bottom of these funding mechanisms and individuals who are perpetuating this violence on our American cities.
Yep, yeah, that's where you draw a conclusion, but Italy could be involved in Epstein's net. Well, as I said, I mean, again, I want the files released, but I just don't think that if they are, that people will accept it. That's really all I have to say. I mean, people can go back and forth and try to dissect it as much as they want, but that's really the truth. And let's see if I can find a few more of these. And so this is, I think this is pretty much the whole thing. We'll go through it.
Mr. President, the American people gave you a sweeping mandate in your victory in this election cycle, and they demanded safety and security for our citizens. And your administration, with your leadership, has provided us with the resources that we need, which is a whole-of-government approach to go after criminals absolutely everywhere, not just outside of this country, but within this country. And that takes a whole-of-government approach. The
Everybody's asleep.
Seated up here with the Department of Homeland Security, our Attorney General, our Deputy Attorney General, and your White House staffers, including Stephen Miller's leadership, has allowed us to go out there and map out these networks. What we are doing at the FBI is simple. It does not require rocket science. We are following the money. Money never lies. And that's what it's going to take to bring down this network of
Eli was in there. Savannah's was Gabe's old ring.
Domestic terrorists, because that's what they are. They are harming everyday citizens in every single one of our communities. And the folks you see here on the right and left, they're some of the bravest men and women we have today. They're reporting the stories live time because the mainstream media won't cover it. They're putting their lives on the line. They're standing up for the flag. The least we can do is stand up for them. So you have my thanks. I read more of your stories than I do theirs because you guys are putting out the truth. And we deserve a country where you are protected as equally as they are. We, in this FBI, will go after with the criminals with a vengeance. We will not rest until we find every single seed, money, donor, organization, and funding mechanism that we have. And I want to echo.
I'll believe it when I see it. You guys can't even figure out how to stop people from posting threats on the internet. You can't even do that. I mean, you're going to be able to, like, I don't know, man. I really don't. It's all talk. I think it's all talk. I mean, because, like, the brass tacks of this is that you watch the riots and the federal officers are not arresting the people rioting en masse.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line.
I mean, there's dangers.
They're not being arrested. They're not being
arresting when people are rioting, but you should be able to separate some and bring them in.
Comments on Scott Bessent, who's allowing us to map out these networks through their financial criminal activities. which has been going on for decades. And I would like to remind the American public, they built this disease temple of corruption over decades. And in 8 short months, Mr. President, you have crippled their foundation because of your leadership here, because of the interagency, because of people like Deputy Attorney General Blanche, and because of Attorney General Pam Bondi's fearless leadership to go after criminals wherever they are. They will not be able to hide. They were able to hide and conspire with prior
They
administrations.
were never able to hide. You just allowed them to. Like, you can
Yeah,
always
they were
figure this
allowed
stuff
to.
out. It's actually easier to figure it out then than it is now.
And we are
Because they're so
exposing their
entrenched.
corruption from within, and we will go to every single city in this country under Operation Summer Heat and the other operations we are doing at the FBI to bring these criminals to justice. We will arrest every single one of them from whatever perch you sit in, private or public, no matter how your goal or your ambition is. It will be crushed.
Not a single large funder or financier for Antifa has been arrested yet, as far as I know.
The Constitution,
be
because
wrong.
the American people deserve law and order.
Yeah, I'm not
That's
sure.
what we're
They're
doing.
investigating Soros, I think.
Yeah, I haven't seen a single one. They don't exist. I think they do. I think it's probably. I actually do think that. I think that there are forces out there that are trying to destabilize the country or trying to push a political viewpoint, and they will do so by funding and financing things that are effectively terrorism. I think that is true. But to what extent, it's hard to say. You're wrong. I mean, you really think it's not happening at all? I mean, come on, what are we doing? Of course it's probably happening to some degree. I don't know the extent of it. I don't know the degree, but I know it's not zero.
Some of us have been covering Antifa for 15 years and have never had anyone in a position of authority even acknowledge their existence. And
Yeah,
I'll
of
also
course.
tell you that I think that had you not done, the single most powerful thing you've done to deal with this scourge has been acknowledging that Antifa is a real thing.
Yeah, obviously.
I genuinely believe there would be people at these tables who would be dead today and would have been killed in Portland had you not called them a terror organization and said we're going to bring the full weight of the federal government to bear. Some of us have been covering
Yeah, it's
Antifa.
just too bad you didn't. Or you haven't yet, at least.
And I was assigned to cover the election night demonstrations. Well, the elections night
Andy.
protests
Here's Andy.
turned to riots, 3 days of violent rioting in Portland, and it was the first time that I saw groups dressed in black with their faces covered.
Why does nobody ask them, why is it that all of the rioters aren't being arrested? Like, if they just answered that question flat out.
This is
I've
4
never
years
heard
before
this.
COVID. Some of them were waving the black flag of anarchism, some the red flag of Marxism. And within seconds, they would ravage one street to another, to another, to
Thanks for
another.
gifted subs, man.
And the next day, I would read the legacy media, which I still read at that time and looked forward to.
Big mistake.
And I looked up to those journalists,
Ooh.
and I was really shocked to see that the narrative was that these, in my view, anti-democratic political violence was legitimate acts of...
Well, they're whitewashing it because they agree with it. That's the reason why. And also the media has an implicit bias for Antifa because it's a destabilizing, problematic force. And the longer that Antifa exists, the longer the media can keep covering Antifa. Make no mistake, it's a good thing whenever an assassination happens for CNN. It's a good thing when a terrorist blows up a building for Fox News. This is something that's beneficial for them. And they are for-profit companies, and you can make this accusation towards me as well, by the way. I'm not fundamentally different than them in this regard, is that all of these news publications and everything, they thrive on chaos because chaos drives more viewership.
protests because people were concerned about racism or all these other lies.
They have no
And so-
reason to turn down the temperature? Well, no, they have a reason to incubate the temperature, in fact, and continue to escalate it.
So for the next 4 years, I just continued going out with my video camera. I thought, look, people can ignore what I write because of spin, but videos can quite speak for themselves. And
it's true.
2019,
I like Andy a lot, by the way. I've watched his content for years.
it led to me nearly losing my life. I was covering another Antifa protests turned riot. At that point, had been routine in Portland, and then I was ambushed in a mob beating, and I had never been in a fight. I didn't even realize that I was being assaulted until seconds in.
Jesus.
And the punches came from everywhere on my head and my face, and I was bleeding out of my eyes and ears.
Well, it's very obvious that these people are violent. Every single time that there's a lone person that is against them, they are always violently aggressing on that person and trying to either forcibly push them away or threatening them or doing something else that is either a precipitation of or is directly physical violence against them. Like, they are violent. The only times that they're not violent is whenever the police are standing right in front of them.
And then they threw all the drinks in my eyes to humiliate me further and to laugh at me.
Who does this?
And I was rushed to the hospital in an ambulance and CT scan, and I had subarachnoid hemorrhage, which is bleeding in the brain. I nearly died. And
what the fuck?
After surviving that, the
Jesus Christ, I didn't even know that.
Reporting that I saw in liberal media it seemed to suggest that I had deserved it.
Yeah, that you brought it on yourself. Of course. It's because they don't like you. They want you to die. The mainstream media, liberal media, they want you to die because you are an existential threat to their existence. Because every independent journalist that's going out there that breaks the narrative, that competes with them, is going to cause them to lose money. That's it. It's literally that simple. It's not even personal.
They branded me far right, and some even went so far as to suggest that I maybe faked my injuries. A BuzzFeed reporter asked for my medical records, which I did provide, but this felt so, it's like because I didn't die in that attack, there was another round of people who wanted to finish me off.
Of course, that way they can get 2 articles and not 1. That's the reason why. Saturates the market when there's more journalists. It also decentralizes the narrative. Oh, of course it has. Yeah, of course. Antifa has assaulted other Asian men that have been at the riots because they looked like Andy. Horseshoe theory proving itself real more and more every day. So, yeah, I guess so. It's nobody got arrested for assaulting them. Oh, I have no idea, right? I don't know. And brother, really are terrorists? Of course they are. Of course. Yeah, I mean, sure. And let's see if I can find. They're all animals and should be deplatformed and banned and investigated. I don't want to have people deplatformed and banned. I want to have them be arrested. I want them to get arrested. Like, I kicked off social media. Like, yeah, sure, of course that should happen. But like, I think they should go to jail, right? I mean, like that a Twitter ban, a life ban, or at least public freedom ban.
Antifa is real. It's real. It's a threat. I just saw them last weekend over in Portland while they're causing mayhem over there. And the reason why they're such a big problem is because we have Democrats and a lot of people in the mainstream media refusing to acknowledge that they even exist, right? So how can we as a country begin to address it if we have large swaths of, these people who are supposedly decision makers and people who are supposed to inform? They don't want to say that it exists.
Well, they don't want to say that it exists because if it exists in their mind, then you can do something about it. And Antifa works as a destabilizing force that could shift the optics in a way that could make Trump look bad. So Antifa serves the goals of those politicians. So that's the reason why they don't go after it. And that's the reason why they let them do that stuff. It's because they're effectively working in their best interest.
Because the common argument is like, well, they're not a real organization because there's no national leadership. They don't have a national headquarters. So how can law enforcement go after a group that doesn't exist like that? Well, law enforcement goes after criminal groups that organize to rob banks or do smash and grabs.
This is exactly the argument that I made with the, Facebook group to murder somebody. Would somebody, if somebody made a Facebook group with 3 other people, be charged with conspiracy to murder? Yes, absolutely.
Have a registered LLC. They don't have official membership cards. They don't have, a business address. But law enforcement still goes after them,
of course,
because they're working as a group. These people don't just show up.
Yeah, exactly. Like and this is. I really like this guy because he's cutting through the bullshit and he's cutting through the semantics and the word games people play, and he's looking at the actions. Whether you want to argue about what kind of organization they are or what level of organization they have, it's very clear that they're getting together and collectively causing problems. And that fundamentally is the issue. Everything else around that is noise. And it's noise that's intentionally created in order to obfuscate that issue. And the reason why is because those people want the issue to continue. That's why.
You know, randomly at the same time to do the same thing dressed in a very similar fashion, espousing the same ideology. And they say, well, it's an ideology. It's like, well, yes, it's an ideology because there's people alive, present, that believe in it, and they're acting on it.
Yeah, of course. And they're organizing around it, too, of course. Playing devil's advocate, would they have to arrest everyone in MSM beside Fox? They all support hate against the federal current government. I don't agree with that. I think that it's actually a very easy way and a very easy line to draw. Are you advocating for killing federal officers or violence against federal officers? If the answer to that is yes, then you go to jail. It's simple. I don't think that CNN is doing it that much. Maybe one person is doing it there. Other than that, no. I don't think that's true at all.
I'm an investigative journalist from Seattle. I work for the Post Millennial alongside Andy Ngo and Jack Posobiec. I have been infiltrating Antifa cells in Seattle and Portland for the past decade. I know their inner workings, and Antifa uses extreme political violence to crush the civil rights. Of their political enemies and believes that violence is justified by any means necessary. But today, I want to focus on what is happening in Portland at the ICE facility. I've been covering this for the past 4 months, and this is a call out to corporate media who has completely ignored this story or has falsely reported on it. This is nothing short other than a
I also think that if the media is found to be intentionally disseminating false information, like in the same way that I agreed that Fox should have gotten in trouble for misrepresenting Dominion and like the settlement and everything was fair, I think that these news companies should lose their news licenses and their privileges. Because if you're a news company and you have privileges because you're a news company, why do you have these privileges if you're not operating as a news company? It doesn't make sense. Why do you have that? It's the same opinion that I have with Section 230. There's a lot of these organizations that want to have their cake and eat it too. They want to enjoy the benefits of their position while simultaneously not bearing any of the responsibilities. And then, in fact, weaponizing the benefits against the people that are giving them to them.
Attack on the United States, which is being supported by Democratic elected officials. The Portland Police Bureau has completely abandoned several blocks outside the ICE facility, giving away their jurisdiction to a terrorist group who has spent the past 4 months harassing, assaulting, and intimidating anyone they perceive to be against their cause.
Of course, that's exactly it. And I saw videos of this happening too. Why is freedom of speech tied in with hate speech and is okay? Because everybody has a different definition of what hate speech is. That's the reason why. I think a really great example of why the idea of hate speech can be so problematic is actually the way that Elon Musk treated the word cisgender. So everybody knows that cisgender isn't really a slur. It's not. But Elon Musk said it was a slur, and because of that, people might have gotten banned, and people at least thought they were going to get banned for using it on Twitter. So the issue to me it is, exactly, but there's other people that think that other words aren't slurs, like, for example, the F word, right, for a bundle of sticks. A lot of people think that's not a slur because they just called their friends that, and they didn't mean that they were talking about gay people. So the problem that you have with something like hate speech is that everybody has a different definition of what hate speech is. And the only way that you can really avoid that is by just letting people say what they want and then prosecuting based off of explicit calls to action and calls to violence. That's the reason why.
Not only have federal agents been relentlessly assaulted for more than 100 consecutive days, black-clad anarchist militants concealing their identities behind black facial coverings have been assaulting reporters just for trying to cover their crimes. Today, I am sitting here with a black eye and a concussion after being violently hit in the face with a metal pole while reporting outside the ICE facility.
Why aren't you asking Kash Patel and Pam Bondi? I mean, I know why you're not. You're obviously not going to do this. But, like, you know, like, the question that I have for them, the follow-up to this, is that are the people that hit her being investigated? Why didn't the federal officers in the area do something about this?
Just this past week, after the attack, I immediately went to three Portland police officers who refused to detain the suspect. I took the time to chase down the suspect in the streets, had her held for 35 minutes.
Jesus.
I was waiting for Portland police to come, and they never came.
Yep, there you go. And it's like at that point, if you're just, and this is what I was saying before about the Insurrection Act, is that if you're just letting the citizens getting abused and violated by these anarchists and fucking terrorists, like, at what point are you not in an open rebellion against the federal government and the United States? I mean, whenever you're just letting journalists be violently attacked and beat up, like, what is that? They are? I think that they are. Hate speech is really the wrong term. The law should be about avocation for violence. Naming it hate speech confuses most people. Well, it already is about that law. That's already happening. And I'll see if there's any more updates to this, but I think that's pretty much the entire thing that's happened. And, oh, there's one more. Okay, one more.
Their ratings are terrible.
They are terrible.
MSNBC is dying, and CNN is dying like a dog.
And
poor CNN, they're so pathetic.
It is very pathetic.
You ever see their anchors in the evening? That nobody ever heard of them. Where do these people come? I could take anybody off the street in Washington, D.C. that do a better job.
Yeah, it's not hard to show what's going on these days. You literally have an iPhone and you can post it on X.
They don't believe in the star system, you know. It's just one of those things, right?
Yeah, I guess so, right? And there it is, right? The lightning. I guess so. The problem is people. What is this here?
Oh yeah, I wanted to see what Benny saw. I think this is supposed to be Naomi. Gnome. Sorry, Gnome, not Naomi.
This was one of the craziest 24-hour
Christy
periods of
Gnome.
my life. Found myself yesterday standing in a sniper's nest with Christy Gnome, staring down Antifa and a guy in a chicken suit. Just another day at the office. I was able to join Christy Gnome on another ICE excursion, this time to Portland. We had just come back from Chicago, and they said, why not try it again? Portland, of course, a city that has descended into total Antifa-controlled madness. Antifa roams the streets, committing terrorist acts on camera. The police do nothing. They arrest the journalists, in fact. The entire city has been blowing up, and the ICE detention facility has been under 24/7 constant attacks by the left And Kristi Noem said, I'm going to go out there in a show of force. And that is exactly what she did. So I announced yesterday that Kristi Noem was going to Portland, Oregon, and that she'd be joined by myself, Nick Sotor, of course, one of the individuals attacked by Antifa and arrested for his trouble, just for being a journalist. And there was
It's ridiculous that they arrested him.
Now, little did I know is when we arrived at the airport,
I can't believe they did.
Was actually from Trump supporters, not from Antifa. Although there was some funny little Antifa troll goblin on my flight that kept filming me. Super weird and very creepy. Anyway, and as soon as I got to the airport, there were guys who worked at the airport that saw the flight I was coming on, and they were waiting for me to just say what's up. Like, they loved Trump. They didn't want to be in the video because they didn't want to lose their job. Portland is run by libs. But this beautiful lady, she did want to be in the video, and she talked about like how much she loves Portland and that she's a Trump supporter, and she wants Portland to be clean and safe, and she wants to save this place. It was really comforting. It was a beautiful thing to just have a ton of conservatives just like right out of the gate.
Mm-hmm.
My boy
cool.
David Medina was waiting for me here at the airport. You can see one of the individuals who's waiting for me right there. Yeah, it's weird. It's amazing. I mean, it's just a big movement. It proves that there are incredible people everywhere, and that you've got to be constantly vigilant. So anyway, David is an awesome independent journalist and activist there in Oregon. He was sort of my Sherpa for the day. And we go to the airport, and Kristi Noem gets off the plane and is ready to roll. Ladies and gentlemen, Kristi Noem heading to Portland. It was a lot of fun. We driving in the motorcades really.
It's a big
great.
dude.
I couldn't recommend it enough. I hope to be able to ride in more motorcades. They're really great to get through traffic. So Kristi Noem goes to the ICE facility. All the windows were blacked out. All the windows were boarded up. Everything was like locked down. And you can see on the side of the building, there was graffiti. There were fire bombs that had been thrown. This is a building that has been under constant attack. And the first thing Kristi Noem does is say this prayer as soon as she enters the building.
That you give us good fellowship, Lord, but that you'd also give us wisdom and discernment to make the best decisions, not just for the people that are here enforcing the law, but also for the citizens of this country. And Lord, I just ask that you continue to put a hedge of protection around these officers. Keep them safe, Lord, but that also that you would continue to bless each and every one of them and their families. And Lord, that you would protect the freedoms that we all enjoy, that were given to us by you. We love you and we praise you in your name. Amen.
Amen.
Oh boy. Man, what a way to start the day. A little different than the way that Secretary Mayorkas would have gone through, I think. Praying to Satan. Anyway, the point is that this thing went viral. 21,000 likes, 109,000 likes, actually, 21,000 reposts. Kristi Noem then spoke to the National Guard, and we went into sort of this big briefing room, and she went down the line with the law enforcement and said, what can I do? Like, what can I do? How can we help? How can we help?
Mm-hmm.
And she says, get ready to the National Guard. And they said, ma'am, we've been ready. National Guard were enjoined from being deployed in Oregon by some woke activist judge, Kristi Noem, on the rooftop, staring down Antifa, including a dude in a chicken suit. It's pretty funny. So what you're going to be able to see here is Kristi Noem, and you're going to be able to see a bunch of protesters, screaming at her from the rooftop. Obviously, dudes in tactical gear everywhere because there's sniper fire on these rooftops. There are people who are obviously wanting harm to be done. Plenty of press there, plenty of protesters there. Dude in a chicken suit. Yelling at Kristi Noem. Okay, yeah. Anyway, everywhere that we went, in Portland, there were masses of protesters. These are the protesters right outside of the ICE facility. The protesters outside of the ICE facility had a giant sign that says, we are bringing the guillotine to you. They did not like Kristi Noem being there at all. But Kristi Noem was there, and what was she doing? Well, she was interrogating criminal aliens. This is a wild scene. Kristi Noem talking to a criminal alien pederast who just been arrested for sex crimes, minor. An absolutely wild scene. Here we go.
Yes, you speak Spanish, so I'll go translation. I speak more.
Hello. Hello. I'm Kristi. I wanted to ask you a few questions. How long have you been in the United States? You don't know? No English?
¿Cuántos años tienes en los Estados Unidos? Alrededor de 7 años.
How many times have you come in and gone out of the country illegally?
¿Cuántas veces has entrado a los Estados Unidos y te regresas de México? 5 times.
5 times?
7 years.
You've been here 7 years? When's the last time you went back to Mexico? And is he convicted sex offender here?
Sí.
Yeah.
¿Tienes varios cargos?
You're in Portland?
¿De qué?
What was your crime in this country?
¿Qué fue? Más una relación con una persona menor de edad. Minor.
A minor? Okay. You also know it's a crime to be here illegally, and you will be prosecuted for it, correct?
¿Te entendió que te cargos de eso? Sí.
Do you have family here?
No.
Do you have children?
No.
No? How old are you? 27?
37, 47.
37. Oh, 37 then. Oh, fast. And you're not married and you have no children? All right. Well, you will be brought to justice and prosecuted for your crimes.
Yeah. Ya va a haber cargos tocantes lo que explicamos ya.
Do you have other individuals and family members that are here in this country illegally?
¿Tienes familiar que están aquí en los Estados Unidos legales?
Are you the member of a gang or cartels? Or
¿Eres miembro de otra organización criminal?
All right. Thank you.
Gracias.
Yep. So how did it roll in again now?
So initially he was passive, and then when our officer operators becomes off, he got a little bit feisty, and he's a big guy, this 6'3", 260 pounds, so he put up a little resistance, so we had to take him to the ground to execute it upon the arrest, and we're still keeping her, none of my officers are injured, and they're pretty highly trained, and so we're there to take him down, there's no scratching from his head, that's all this was just going to be awesome.
I'm glad you got him. Thank you for bringing him in. And it's one more child that we protected, or maybe many more. So thank you for doing it. Appreciate it.
Kristi Noem then made a little bit of news announcing that she wants to bring CNN on one of these trips, right? So why not just have CNN come? CNN saying that Portland is safe and secure. Certainly not what I saw. Kristi Noem says, come along, CNN.
Just a real quick follow-up to that. CNN in the White House yesterday, Caitlin Collin goes viral saying, Portland's safe, Portland's beautiful, there's no crime in Portland. Your response to that?
Well, I disagree. We should have invited her to come along today. She would have been able to see the individuals that were getting off the streets and then talk with the law enforcement officers that are here every day doing God's work, making sure that America still continues to be the greatest country in the world.
Is that an open invitation to CNN to come along on the next one?
Absolutely. We will talk to her and see what we can do to convince her to come out in the real world.
No,
get
they
out from
won't.
behind the desk and actually walk in the shoes of our law enforcement. That would be fantastic. Maybe that's how we fix the fake news in this country.
Kristi Noem spoke with other criminal aliens. There were like a series of them that had been arrested, and just showing the good work that the cops were doing there in federal law enforcement. There's a dude named Zach Bryan who wrote an anti-ICE song, and I figured it's probably the best time to ask about it. What do you think about Zach Bryan and his anti-ICE song?
Madam Secretary, you have a convicted pedophile here, a couple of criminals here. These are bad hombres, as the president would say. Yet you have major cultural icons, big-time country music superstar. His name's Zach Bryan. He probably has tens of millions of Trump supporters in his audience, and he just released an anti-ICE song. I want to get your response to that, especially given what we've seen today.
I heard that and listened to a little bit of it and extremely disappointed and disheartened, and actually I hope he understands how completely disrespectful that song is, not just to law enforcement, but to this country, to every single individual that has ever stood up and fought for our freedoms. He just compromised it all by putting out a product such as that, that attacks individuals who are just trying to make our streets safe. Zach, I didn't listen to your music. I'm happy about that today. Today that makes me very happy that I never once gave you a single penny to enrich your lifestyle if you truly believe what that song stands for. But I am going to go out and probably download some Jason Aldean songs, John Rich songs,
Kid
John
Rock.
Party, Kid Rock, any of those guys. Those guys know what it means to stand up for freedom. So I'm glad I didn't waste any money on Zach.
A follow-up, Secretary. Zach Bryan does big shows and is protected by law enforcement a lot, right? Probably protected by some federal law enforcement, local, and so on. Seems relatively disrespectful to go after federal law enforcement in this song.
Well, that's what's so special about law enforcement, is that they don't pick and choose who they defend when they do their jobs. They will even defend and protect people that don't respect them or stand up for them. So that's who I'll point to when I tell my grandkids to grow up like some.
It was an absolutely wild day. There's other stuff that went on, but those are the clips certainly that went viral. I ended up flying back on a red eye and not sleeping at all last night, and just hopped down into my garage and I got to work out in with my wife. And that's it. Here's my garage selfie video. Another interesting part of the trip is an interview with Nick Sotor. Nick had a lot to say. Obviously, he's going to be suing the Portland police
Good.
For
He should
wrongfully
be.
arresting him, something that is proven. And Nick is an entertaining interview. Here you go.
Yo, what's up? We are on the ground in Portland, Oregon with the legend himself. Somebody who's probably going to be made sheriff around here by the time it's all over. Nick, what's up?
They said that we were going to change the name of this town to Sortland instead. So, that's how big this lawsuit is.
Give us an update, man. Way to beat the case.
Absolutely.
Way to beat the case.
But you know how we did it? We put in a demand for discovery. We wanted to know the coordination between Antifa and the police department. They looked at that and they're like, never mind, case dismissed. So, unfortunately for them, we're going to keep pushing that, even though they've dropped the charges. So, yeah, stay tuned. I'm just happy to be in the back of a police car without handcuffs on this time.
That's right. We're here to cover Kristi Noem, who is here right now, and it's very interesting. She's
Good.
meeting with
I'm
the
glad
governor
he's
of
out.
Oregon, and it's
Got
gonna
off
be a
the
wild
hook of
day.
that
We're
one.
gonna go to the ICE facility. You know it well. What we're going to
Of getting chased down by Antifa and then getting arrested because they were chasing him down. Ridiculous.
Chicken costumes and such that are assaulting cops. I mean, it's weird. It feels like a trippy dream, but that's just what happens out there.
Were you the one that captured the pepper spray into the air hole of the...
Oh, yeah.
Was that you? Okay.
That guy
The
had to get a
frog.
whole new suit because it was full of mace in the other one.
So, what is the update? What is the update on your lawsuit? I know that there was some breaking news. You're going to pursue this thing. You're going to keep going.
I can't officially say anything until my attorney announces it, but
Okay,
yeah, we're definitely. We sent a letter last night to both the city council and the police chief, because the police chief keeps going on TV and slandering me every single day. Like, dude's mad, dude's bitter. And we demanding a formal apology and an internal investigation, and we'll give him 7 days to do that. I don't think he'll do either one of those things. So, just last night he was on TV blaming me for being attacked and assaulted in the street. It's my fault because I brought a camera and I'm a conservative. The way that he put it was that the light on my camera, because it's in the middle of the night when you're filming, is antagonistic. So that's
Ridiculous.
quite the take from a police chief. You should be beaten in the street, or deserve to be beaten in the street, if you have a light on your camera.
Sounds like somebody who watches Jimmy Kimmel.
Right?
All right, so final question, Nick. What, you've been here for a week at least, right? Do you believe that the police are coordinating with Antifa?
Absolutely they are. I have another example of it, proof of it actually. Just the other day, they decided to surrender traffic control duties to Antifa and blocked the residents from getting to their homes. One street to get there.
I saw that.
And then a manager from a local restaurant walked up and demanded the road be open so that his employees could get there, and as well as customers. And the police went up to Antifa and said, "Hey, would you mind opening the road so that people can get to the spaghetti restaurant?" And they said, "No, we can't do that right now." And the police said, "Okay," and that's it. And they walked away. So at a very minimum, they are surrendering to Antifa, but they went up and asked them that, and they said no. So I guess that's who has the real power here.
So it's a Chaz Chop situation, like in Seattle, where they're just like surrendering the city to terrorists.
Yep.
Well, the Trump administration is here today. We're going to follow along. The Trump administration ain't going to have any of this. It's just going to be a rowdy day. With Nick, let's roll.
Interesting. Yeah, this is the
closely
song clip.
match the ET300 Mini Educator, which does have shock prongs. It seems to match in shape, in the positioning of the charging port, in the texture of the plastic, unlike this one with the much more curvy light than the one Hassan has. This one, which is vibrate only, also has its charging point on the side. The one Hassan...
So just for context,
Kaya, please just fucking go. Just stop. You're being
Yeah,
such a
he
baby.
zapped that dog.
Hassan first
He
said
definitely
this was
zapped that
due to his
dog.
dog tripping. Then he said his dog was wearing a vibration collar. And then finally, people found out the exact model, which is a shock collar with prongs removed and covered with black tape.
where the prongs that could deliver the shock are simply removable. You can just remove them.
Yeah, you can unscrew them.
Maybe, plausibly, ostensibly, cover them with black tape.
And especially with the difference in level and
But yeah, and
For
XDC is
anyone else that's still confused, that's the one in his hand. That's the shock collar, and that's the vibration collar. This
Yeah.
needs to be higher. It is 100% proven it's a shock collar. This idiot just taped together. Oh man.
It's funny what
fucking
contrasting I
kidding
bet
me?
they're
If
gonna
he's
do.
found out that he's taping or obstructing this,
He definitely
in any
is.
way, he 100% shocked the dog. Why would you do that? Why would you do that?
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I saw him did that. Using that poor dog as a stream prop. We let our girl wander around the house. Put her outside on a chain. We used to have the electric fence, but she's so stubborn she'd just run right through. I thought they'd be streaming by now. Well, maybe they're having issues. I don't like this. I think that's... Yeah, take the trigger fingers off. That better be all the hostages on Monday. Yeah, Russia's gas prices going up. So let's have come to the conclusion that the reason why they're failing to push multiculturalism in Japan is because we love white people too much. No, multiculturalism is failing because other cultures do not want to mesh with societies that are not their own. This is that transgender women are biologically male and should not be treated as women. I agree. Wow, that was difficult. Gil calls for Ilhar Omar's deportation back to Somalia. He demands the revocation of her citizenship and her removal from the U.S. Absolutely. Get this witch out of here. Yeah.
Motherfucker, come here. Stay. If you run right now, I'll fucking kill you. Like, I'll actually kill you, okay? In front of everyone. Stay.
Stay. If you run
Okay. Yeah, he's a piece of dirt. So is Hakeem Jeffries. The Democrats still don't know the facts. Democrat shutdown. Yep. Sombreros will continue until morale improves. B2 sombrero. Sombrero for you. Sombrero for you. Sombrero for you. Yeah, seriously, it did.
Hey noble ones, welcome back to my channel. This is the Metatron speaking, and have you ever heard of the channel Archaic Arms? 41,000 subscribers, really excellent channel. And today I found this video of theirs called The Most Underrated Ancient Projectile.
The slingshot.
I mean, even looking at the thumbnail and picture, I imagine they're talking about the sling. And there is a lot that can be said specifically in the classical period when it comes to slingers as a unit deployed.
You can kill people with them.
So I feel like whatever they show.
I mean, it was truly used by shepherds to defend their flock.
Let's go.
We all know of the arrow.
Oh gosh.
And the javelin.
That's the end of that camera.
Ancient projectiles so prolific as to even be practiced as a sport in the modern day.
Mm-hmm.
But what if there was another, also with its roots in prehistory, and equally widespread, yet so overlooked today?
Yep.
That, my friends, is the big rock.
I was going to say, that's a little small, although then again, that one hits you in the head, it's going to crack it. I really liked his throw.
A big rock.
I think he did a really good job because I don't think I will be able to do it that well. Let me see it again.
Widespread, yet so overlooked today.
Man, I wonder how far that
Sounds like a gunshot.
as a projectile. And did you notice that he said, apart from the bow and the javelin, there is another projectile, I think he said, that can be used. It comes from the prehistory too. And that is so true. Often when we think of archers and the idea of bow and arrow, we think of the medieval period, of course. We think of classical antiquity with some archers that were used as special auxiliary corps. But yeah, no, the bow and arrow is a prehistorical invention, and if memory isn't faulty, unless the evidence has changed, I remember that it can be traced when it
I mean, if you could go with the slingshot, you can
back to the Mesolithic period. So before
shoot
mankind
not as far probably as a bow and arrow, but
the beginning of agriculture, the bow
do
and
some
arrow was
damage.
already a thing, and it had been a thing for tens of thousands of years. So yeah, bow and arrow is extremely ancient. Now, its military applications, that's different. We need to see, we're talking about specific ranged corps and how they are utilized and training. That's different. But I would say that archers in the Mesolithic probably did use bows and arrows, although they mostly used them to hunt. They did use them against enemy tribes if there was some sort of prehistorical war. So yeah, it's really ancient. Not as ancient as the spear, but it is really ancient.
That, my friends, is the big rock.
Right.
Large stones have been a formidable projectile since the early Paleolithic.
Nice stones.
Being heavy, hard, and dense, and often readily
It's weird
available,
looking one.
they were commonly used for attack and defense for many thousands of years.
Ooh, nice.
They could be launched by
Very
hand
accurate.
or sling, and later, staff slings and catapults.
Imperial Roman
Today,
artillery. I
I'll
have
share
that
some
book.
of the ways the Romans used it,
Oh, good.
as well
good.
as test a helmet against the considerable forces of this ancient missile.
Okay, that's fascinating. Now, this looks like an Imperial Gallic Type H, and it's the same type of helmet that I have. It's exactly the same. And these are a little bit on the cheap side, in the sense that these are helmets that are not great representations. That's something I always say. The few
Sorry.
times that I myself used this to do
Whacking
some
the
testing.
microphone.
Show you. I have these two videos with bronze and brass maces. I think in the one with the brass, I used it against the helmet. Steel of the. Let me see. Yep, I did.
Ouch.
Yeah. But now, this does not mean, however, that the same would have happened with an actual original period-accurate helmet used by a Roman soldier, because these are extremely cheap, sheet metal. They are very nicely polished. Well, this one is kind of rusty now. They're very nicely polished, which, you know, it's something that we can easily do now with machinery, as opposed to how it was done. Like a very polished helmet, even in the medieval period, would have been very expensive. It's something that we can do with cheap helmets. So a cheap medieval helmet wouldn't have been polished, if you know what I mean. They're cheap in different reasons, but the thickness and the type of metal are very different. That's one thing that we need. Look at this hit. Look at this hit against the pumpkin. Check that out. Go. Ha! Oh yeah. So anyways, as I was saying, it's something that I do explain later, and I'm showing my other like accurate helmets. My properly made heat-treated medium carbon steel barbute, this would not happen. You wouldn't. Okay, so it really very much depends on what helmet and all of that. But with that out of the way, let's see what type of tests they did, because it's still going to be interesting anyways. I'm just saying it's not definitive.
Getius states in De Re Militari, recruits are to be taught the art of throwing stones both with the hand and sling.
Yep.
And, formerly, all soldiers were trained to the practice of throwing stones of a pound weight with the hand, as this was thought a readier method since it did not require a sling. Here is a stone of approximately this weight, 1 libra or 1 Roman pound.
I was going to say, because a Roman pound is different from a modern pound, so he's being accurate. Good.
Even though I don't practice throwing bare hand, it feels an optimum weight to throw. More than twice the weight of a baseball or cricket ball. There is less excess energy in the arm after the throw, making it surprisingly comfortable. Bare-hand throwers require little room compared to slingers, and that's their main advantage on the battlefield. For more power, a sling can be used. The 1 libra stone works very well with short, medium and long slings, but a lighter stone will provide a lot more range.
Man, this guy's
Sling
cool.
bullets very rarely weighed more than about 4 ounces or 115 grams, and yet stones of about 1 Greek mina or 435 grams are said to have been used in battle.
Wow.
This is because large stones have a lot of kinetic energy and momentum, and were known to the ancients as an anti-armor projectile. Diodorus Siculus wrote, "But when Hamilcar saw that his men were being overpowered, and that the Greeks in constantly increasing numbers were making their way into the camp, he brought up his slingers, who came from the Balearic Islands and numbered at least 1,000.
Yep.
By hurling a shower of great stones, they wounded many and even killed not a few of those who were attacking. And they shattered the defensive armour of most of them. For these men, who are accustomed to sling stones weighing a mina, contribute a great deal toward victory in battle, since from childhood they practice constantly with the sling. In this way they drove the Greeks from the camp and defeated them."
Fascinating stuff. Armor in question would be interesting to see what the armor was exactly. If we're talking about bronze, if we're talking about brass, if you're talking about some kind of...
Not that I hate it, it's got a crack in it. It leaks.
Oh, does it?
Yeah.
So.
I might be able to fix it, but don't pull it apart. Sheesh. No, I like the cup, it just has a crack in it, so it's not like a usable cup.
I have no need for...
Yeah. What? Okay. Love you.
Iron that of course wasn't like carbon steel, although then again some ancient or classical iron oftentimes is steel. It's just that it's low carbon steel, but still it is steel. It would be interesting if they are shattering, for instance, if they're going through spolas made of leather, or maybe they're going through linothoraces. So it's an interesting thing to read, and of course there are a million caveats that need to be taken into consideration, one of which is the period, but still, yeah, I truly believe it. 1,000 slingers. Oh, I wouldn't want to be in the receiving end.
Another feature is that this power is greatly accentuated when used from an elevated position, such as a fortification.
Oh yeah.
In this context, stones can be stockpiled, making for a cheap and highly potent defense.
Absolutely. He's attacking a giant, though. I was expecting throwing down.
Large stones can be used in a variety of ways. They can be thrown in a high arc to rain down on the enemy.
Right.
They can be launched directly.
Man, this guy's
good. Or they can be
good.
cast as to bounce along the ground or at an angle to bounce up under shields.
And he
This
hit
was
it.
also used to great effect by stone.
That's a painful hit.
That would have been... Oh no. Oh, that would have hurt. But this guy's really good. Did you see how precise he was? Imagine how precise the professional slingers of the classical period would be. These guys could hit you in the face. These guys could hit you in the face.
Throwing ballistae, whose round projectiles would bounce and travel great distances, potentially taking out many foes with a single shot.
Yep.
The smallest of
And
the Vitruvius
fortifications.
ballistas was the 2 libra. This means that the largest stone it could shoot was 2 Roman pounds, about 660 grams in weight. However, smaller and lighter projectiles could also be used, resulting in greater velocity. Thus, a round 1 libra stone can effectively be used by slingers.
Yeah, look at this. Look. I know this is fascinating information is sharing. I love it. A couple of things. Look at the shield. Look how this guy is embracing his shield. These type of shields, because sometimes we think of Roman period shields as all being center gripped and with a briefcase grip. But no, there are also these type of shields exist. I remember one more case in which we see a shield that is clearly strapped. Like in this case, we can't see it. We see he's holding it this way. It's possible that there is a strap here. Those also existed. It's just that they are not the type of shields. You can see another one here on the left. It's just that usually those are not the type of shields used by heavy infantry and even cavalry depending, but there are situations in which those exist too. Let me see if I can show you that. I have a video about it. So Metatron, there you go. I found the video where I actually talk about this. Look at this. You can see there is a strap here as well as the section that he grips. It's an auxiliary soldier, I believe, and you can see that it's a completely different type of fastening, and it's definitely not just a briefcase center grip shields. In fact, you don't even see a hole in here for the hand to be encased in. So this is just one example, and it shouldn't be really difficult to believe, because at the end of the day, the Greeks, I think I have a picture of that, the Greeks did brace their shields, although then again in a bit more complicated system. But still, these type of shields that are strapped do exist in classical antiquity, and every time I see a picture or a representation of that, I have to point it out, because even though they probably weren't, they were just a minority or a fraction, majority of shields in this period, particularly with the Romans and the Celts, are briefcased center bossed, still they did exist.
And hand throwers, as well as the lesser artillery. This potentially shared ammunition and versatility provides a great deal of adaptability and simplified logistics. However, because such stones are significantly larger than arrows or sling bullets, it makes them a lot easier to dodge. Where this was an issue, the Romans blackened them. This made even giant ballista stones much harder to see when hurtling towards you.
Smart bastards.
Now, for the helmet test.
Ding.
For this, I've got a Roman Gallic H-type helmet.
I told you it was type H. Got it.
It's a mass-market replica of 18-gauge construction.
Yeah.
But it should help illustrate the impact of heavy stones in general.
Very good, very good.
The first sling I'll use is a 13-inch Balearic style. Any shorter and barehand is preferable. There are numerous depictions of very short slings being used historically, and it increases throwing power while still being as compact as possible. Next, I'll use a 28-inch Balearic style. This is a medium-length sling, and is capable of generating significantly higher velocities, especially with lighter projectiles.
This guy's so good. His presentation
Let's
as well.
begin.
Yeah, let's go. Well, boom. Okay, hit the chick blade. Did it? Or was it the back blade? Ooh, that was a
That was
nice
a direct.
Man, that would have hurt.
As you can see, it wasn't a completely square on hit, partially glancing, but there was deformation from the impact.
Yep.
And it did transfer through the padding. Well, the inside of it is also dented, as you can see there.
Yeah.
And that did actually transfer through the padding to the melon, which is also damaged here. It was split open and has become a bit soft as a result.
Damn. Ooh, that was forehead. That was forehead
That was
strike.
good.
Yeah, you don't want to mess with this guy.
490 gram stone hit directly on the brow ridge here.
Which is why the brow is there, by the way.
But what's really interesting about that is you can see the deformation is not extreme.
Yep.
What this did was distribute the force over.
As I say again, very ingenious. Everything is so meticulously engineered when it comes to the Roman army and their equipment, weapons and armor, but in this case we're discussing the armor, of course. This, of course, would help as well if you were hitting the guy with a sword strike or an axe strike or a mace or club, because you hit this, the brim, instead of directly the skull of the helmet, and this does absolutely help dissipate at least some of that force. So very, very ingenious addition.
The brow ridge, and thus you can see the dent that it did actually dent the helmet underneath, but as you can see that is distributed over a line, which means from the inside you can see that brow ridge has been forced into the helmet, but has dramatically reduced the deformation that would otherwise have occurred.
Absolutely. Oh, where did he hit? It was too fast. Oh, he hit the face.
He
face,
killed
the
it.
Face. Yeah, that would be end of the Legionary. Oh my gosh, the precision. I told you that historical slingers could hit you in the face. He just demonstrated it. And at that point, it doesn't matter what you're wearing. That's the end of it. That's the end of you. So yeah, slingers must have been really scary. Of course, you would be
Killed that
raising
melon.
your shield. So hopefully the shield is your first line of defense, right? The armor, whether it be La Riga Segmentata that I've got in the back there, or whether it be the helmet, that's the secondary line of defense, is when you F up with a shield. So in theory, this legionary has his shield in front of him, you throw the thing, and he either raises the shield, or he's, whatever, already underneath the shield, and so you hit the shield, and that's it. But this absolutely has happened in history, 100% it has happened in history, and so when the shield fails to provide that barrier between the attack and the person, then hopefully the secondary line of defense, meaning the armor, will come in. But in this case, bye-bye. System shut down.
Evidently my aim was too good, and I hit him right in the face, which is
holy
not
cow.
a good test for the helmet.
You could add a little bit of ham now. You could eat like some ham with it, drink a little Fanta.
Right in the chin. The watermelon subsequently obliterated on the bottom.
That also tells you though why it's so important to have the helmet, because imagine even the previous strikes that he did when he hit the helmet, it deformed the helmet. But if the helmet wasn't there, this would have happened, most likely, with each and every single one of those strikes, particularly the one in here.
Really, I mean, it just completely exploded. Carved that watermelon inside out.
Gosh. Oh, I'm glad he had multiple. Okay, that's another chick plate. Almost. It's like the temple, is it? Man, that would ring your ear.
So here's the helmet after that hit.
It's the temple.
Just a glancing blow here over the rivet. Did cause deformation a little bit. And there isn't any visible damage on the watermelon beneath. So, in this instance, if you weren't wearing a helmet, that could well,
save your
made
life,
you pop your clogs. But with a helmet on, it protects you. And I think these glancing blows would actually have been more common than direct hits. And this is where a helmet, as a secondary defense, will
there we
save your
go.
life.
You see, secondary, this guy is good. This guy knows what he's talking about. Not only he knows what he's doing, but he knows what he's talking about. Like him very much. Excellent channel. Appreciate the long hair from fellow long hair men. Let's see. That's another
the long hair. It's sucking up to him because of the long hair.
Yeah. Man, you need to dumb down your skill for this test. You need to pretend not to be good.
Coming up to the target this time, you can see the brow of the helmet is attached.
That's because it's a cheap helmet.
The arming cap has been excluded from the helmet, and the melon, unfortunately, has now met its end.
Yep. Melon 2. I think it's Melon 3 by now, to be honest. So that's another... Oh, good, he went... Wow. Let's see.
This was a new melon.
Yes.
And that is...
Yeah, it's fine.
Unscathed, I believe. Oh, wow.
Yeah, I mean...
Look at that.
That's
so
a
that
dent.
just missed the bar and just was a glancing blow on top. But it was fairly well placed right on the... almost the crown there.
Yeah, it was a direct hit.
And inside, that is quite a significant dent there.
Oh, you hit the stones. Oh no,
Mm.
he didn't. Never mind. Where did you hit? Sort of, a little bit between the chick plate and the stone, I guess. Boom. Man,
Break
that's a
somebody's
headache
neck.
right there. That's a migraine. Give him ibuprofen. That's another man. This guy, the Romans are gonna employ you immediately. They'll be like, get this guy, pay him. My gosh, that's an amazing shot. You did both. GG, well played.
Now that was an exciting shot.
Yeah.
Oh. Oh.
No.
Ripped the melon and flattened it. Holy cow.
Now, that helmet hasn't really done much for the
Nope.
user here.
No.
Or rather, should I say, for the melon. Because despite it actually being a square on hit on the helmet, right here on the above the eyes,
You
it
also hit the
was
melon.
a catastrophic caving.
It was a catastrophic, yeah, because you can see this is kind of half the stone, and so there is another half of stone here that hit directly. Phenomenal strike. I'm going to stop because I don't want to watch until the end. So for his conclusions, guy, I'm going to give him a like. And for his conclusions, absolutely finish watching the video, give him a like, give him a comment, and subscribe.
Stop watching like stone throwing videos like that.
I am not ashamed, ladies and gentlemen, to say that as a scientist I believe that Jesus Christ literally rose from the dead on the third day. So I'm not ashamed of appearing to look a fool in front of my colleagues who would deny that on some very erroneous arguments derived from David Hume. It's a great pleasure for me to be invited to speak to this forum, Socrates in the City. I am not ashamed, ladies and gentlemen, to say that as a scientist, I believe that Jesus Christ literally rose from the dead on the third day. So I'm not ashamed of appearing to look a fool in front of my colleagues who would deny that on some very erroneous arguments derived from David Hume.
Thank you for playing.
So down this road of believing that there was a beginning, because it will give too much leverage to people who believe the Bible. In other words, here was science being resisted because it appeared to run parallel to what Scripture said. Now we know that the majority of scientists believe that space-time had a beginning. But what they do not believe is that it was a creation by an intelligent God. And so although the battle lines have changed slightly, the major issue out there is, was it a creation or not? Now, of course, this has posed an immense problem for atheist scientists, because if there was a beginning to space-time and there was nothing before, that is the absence of anything, their problem is, how do we get a universe from nothing?
Yeah.
And the efforts made by Lawrence Krauss of ASU and Stephen Hawking recently have shown spectacularly the absurd lengths to which intelligent people will go to try to avoid the notion that there is a creator. Now, our topic tonight is not the fact that atheists and Christians agree that there was a beginning. It's not even the fact that as a Christian, I want to defend the fact that the beginning was a creation by an intelligent creator. What we're going to talk about tonight is the fact that there is an account of creation in the Bible. It is an account that has been subject to an enormous amount of study and an enormous amount of attack, particularly from non-Christian thinkers.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to have a look at it because it seems to me to be enormously important not only to look at it, but to think about how we look at it. And many people have been put off even considering the evidence for the Christian faith, because they see, whether rightly or wrongly, that aspects and sections of the Christian church appear to them to be seriously unscientific and seriously obscurantist. And that puts them into a dilemma, because I have many friends, particularly in this country, who want to be faithful to Scripture. They believe in its authority, and rightly so in my opinion. But they also want to face science. And they do not want unnecessarily to be taken for fools when it comes to the understanding of science. Now, as Christians study these issues, they are being watched as to how they do it. And one of the saddest things to my mind is this: when Christians who profess to believe that Jesus Christ is the truth and that he, above all, brings to us the love of God, start to fight one another in a public way over issues that are not necessarily at the heart of the biblical message, and therefore bring it into very serious discredit. We are being watched. And so it's important that we get some kind of perspective on what is for many people a very, very sensitive and controversial subject, because there's a double tension. There's the question of being faithful to their understanding of the authority and inspiration of Scripture, and on the other hand, not being obscurantist when it comes to the developments in science. The reformers in the 15th and 16th centuries adopted an approach which they called the literal method. They didn't mean literal in the way we often use it, though. They meant the sense of interpretation of a text which is obtained by taking its words in their natural or customary meaning and applying the normal rules of grammar. Now, that's enormously important because, of course, when we come to the fundamental doctrines of Christianity, they are first and foremost to be understood in their natural primary sense. Creation is not a metaphor for anything. It involved an actual bringing into existence of the cosmos. The cross of Christ is not a metaphor. In the first instance, it is an actual crucifixion. It has, of course, significance way beyond that, and so on. But that basic principle needs immediate qualification because, of course, if we ask for the natural reading, there can be more than one. For instance, in Genesis 1, the word earth is first used for the planet, and then a little later it's used for the dry land as distinct from the sea. Now, both times the word earth is clearly meant literally, but there are two different literal meanings. So we must be open for that possibility. We ask the question, what level should a text be read? It's often obvious. But sometimes it's not so obvious, and that's, of course, where all the controversy begins. Now, think of the moving earth controversy. For many years, if not centuries, there would have been two groups. At the first, a big group of fixed earthers and a tiny group of moving earthers. But as time went on and evidence came in more and more, the group of moving earthers grew and the group of fixed earthers got less and less. And they had to somehow come to terms with the idea that Scripture appeared to say that the earth was fixed and it didn't move. So what were they going to do? Now, were the people who began to believe in a moving earth just people who'd given up on the authority of Scripture and jumped on the bandwagon of science? Or what? Well, let's think about it. Let me make clear that I am a scientist who believes that Scripture is the fully inspired word of God and authoritative. But it's very important, having realized that the Bible answers actually the more important questions, the why questions of purpose, rather than the how questions of how it works. That nonetheless, Scripture has truth to tell about the objective reality that we call the physical universe. And therefore, we must try to understand what it is and what it isn't that the Bible has to say on this topic. Now, many years ago, centuries ago, Augustine had some advice as to how Christians should engage with science. Usually, he wrote, even a non-Christian knows something about the earth, the heavens, and this knowledge he holds as to be as certain from reason and experience. Now, it is a disgraceful and dangerous thing for an infidel to hear a Christian presuming to give the meaning of Holy Scripture, talking nonsense on these topics. And we should take all means to prevent such an embarrassing situation in which people show up vast ignorance in a Christian and laugh it to scorn. He then says this, if they find a Christian mistaken in a field which they themselves know well, and hear him maintaining his foolish opinions about our books, how are they going to believe those books in matters concerning the resurrection of the dead, the hope of eternal life, and the kingdom of heaven? And I think what Augustine has done there is put his finger on the problem that many people face. They want to trust rightly the authority of Scripture, but they do not want unnecessarily to appear idiotic when it comes to the results of contemporary science. Now, Augustine is not suggesting, of course, that Christians should not be prepared to face ridicule over fundamental doctrines of the Christian message, like the deity of Christ, his resurrection, and so on. Such ridicule is often based on the false notion that science has made it impossible to believe in miracles. That has been evident since the very beginning of Christianity, and it occurs today, as I have very good cause to know. I am not ashamed, ladies and gentlemen, to say that as a scientist, I believe that Jesus Christ literally rose from the dead on the third day. So I'm not ashamed of appearing to look a fool in front of my colleagues who would deny that on some very erroneous arguments derived from David Hume. On the other hand, I am not prepared to say beyond what it appears to me that Scripture says on certain other issues. And it is that, of course, we need to discuss. It starts with an earth that is without form and void. There's nothing much there. It ends with the earth full of all kinds of life. And culminating the process is the highest form of life, human beings made in the image of God. Let me just stop there. The very fact of a sequence is fascinating, because it seems to be saying, whatever you believe about the days, that God did not create everything at once. There is a sequence with a goal. And what is the goal? It's human beings made in the image of God. Ladies and gentlemen, our world desperately needs to hear this today. Human beings are the only creature or thing in the entire physical universe that are said to be made in the image of God. The heavens declare the glory of God. It is nowhere said they were made in
there's
His
no
image.
cat boys
You were
and
made in God's
cat
image.
girls in heaven
And that distinguishes you
with
above every other creature. You don't need me to remind you that
without
in America
us being
and
distinguished.
in the United Kingdom today, there is enormous pressure to devalue human beings to just another
There's a
species.
dehumanization
And before we get
issue
into the
going on.
details here, just let's see what this text is actually saying. It's saying that you, as a human being, are uniquely valued because you are made in the image of God. That is an immensely
Amen.
powerful and important message. So there's a sequence of days and a rest, which becomes, of course, the model of our Earth Week. And in any age, readers of Genesis 1 would be familiar with this basic cycle of life, the human working week. And they would know the law of Exodus. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days you shall labor, do your work, and so on. And the readers would clearly understand that Genesis 1 portrays God as a creative craftsman going about his week of work, taking rest each night from evening to morning, and then having a day of rest in the end. But of course, the thoughtful reader would realize a lot more, would realize that God's work of creation was vastly different from their work. We do not do the things that God does. Indeed, the Hebrew word for create is only used in the Bible with God as subject. The readers would also realize that their rest was not the same as God rests. God never slumbers or sleeps. And they would realize that God's creation week was never repeated, whereas theirs was. So there were points of contact between the Genesis week and the repeated Earth week, but there were major points of difference. But now comes the key question. What does Genesis actually say? Well, first of all, the word day, which is the crucial issue here. Well, the first mention of it in chapter 1 is verse 5, where we read, God called the light day and the darkness He called night. So what's the length of that day? Not 24 hours. By definition, it isn't. I find it spectacularly amazing, ladies and gentlemen, that people can read this text and insist that at every place where the word day in Genesis or the Bible occurs, it means a 24-hour day. The very first use doesn't. It contrasts day with night. And that reminds us of the multivalency of the word day in most languages. I came on Tuesday in the day is not saying the same thing twice. It's saying I came in the daytime. So the very first use of the word is the contrast between the 12 hours, at the equator at least, of day and night. So number one is not a 24-hour day. It's actually less. So that's the first thing. Secondly, the second occurrence is in the same verse. Day 1 involves evening and morning and would be naturally understood by Hebrews as what we would think of as a 24-hour day. So now we have 2 meanings for the word day, but there are more. We come to the 7th day, the Sabbath. There's no mention of evening and morning. And for centuries, people have asked why. And Augustine and many others made the sensible suggestion that God rested on the 7th day, but he didn't start creating again. That Sabbath rest has remained until today and is still going on. And hence, the word evening and morning is not appended to it. So there's at least one very long day that I find millions of Christians believe in anyway, without necessarily being aware of it. So the 7th day, arguably at least, is different from the first 6, which is different from the first mention of the word day. God, of course, rested from his work of creation, not from his work of redemption. That is a different matter and is very important. But ladies and gentlemen, the implication of God resting from his work of creation, that is immensely important. Because it means that things were going on during creation that aren't going on anymore. So that the present is not a total key to the past. Now, of course, that is dynamite in certain academic circles, but I'm simply trying to see what Scripture is saying. It's saying that God did certain things and he stopped doing them. There was a rest. But then finally, in Genesis 2 verse 4, we meet the expression, when God created. But the word when there is the Hebrew word for day. And you see, here is now another use of the word day that we've all got. You know, in my young day at Cambridge, C.S. Lewis was a professor. You would never think of asking me, was that Tuesday or Wednesday? Because day there is an expression, excuse me, for an indefinite period of time, isn't it? It's used in Hebrew in that way. It's used in most languages in that way. So now, looking at this fascinating text, we have several distinct meanings. They're all primary meanings, and they're all different. Now, this text is roughly 100 words. And here's a word used in 5 different senses, which warns me that this is extremely sophisticated writing. It may be very simple on the surface, but there's a sophistication to it that begins to emerge very rapidly. So how should we interpret all that? Well, the next point to make, I think, is this. Verses 1 and 2 of Genesis, in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth, and so on. Those 2 at the beginning are separated from the period of days. I find many people haven't noticed that. Because every day from 2 on begins with, and God said. So you would logically expect that day 1 begins with, and God said, but that means that it's verse 3 and not verse 1. In other words, the creation of the heavens and the earth, however you interpret the days, according to the text, did not occur on day 1. Now that's very interesting, isn't it? Because if that is the case, and the Hebrew experts whom I have consulted tell me that the Hebrew changes the tense to make that extremely clear, that verses 1 or 2 are written in such a way as to indicate this occurs before the main narrative. Well, ladies and gentlemen, one of the major issues I hear around the place is, how old is the earth or the universe? I'm not so sure that Scripture even discusses it. Because whatever you think of the days, whether you think that there are days of 1 week or long days, if they were not at the beginning, then the beginning occurred at an indefinite time in the past. Now, if Scripture doesn't tell me when the beginning was, then why should I be dogmatic about it? Because it's not the issue. All right? Now, of course, a lot of things get conflated here. Because we loosely talk about the age of the earth, but there are several ages to be thought about, aren't there? There's the age of the universe, there's the age of the earth, and there's the age of life, and there's the age of humanity. They're not all the same. Even if you believe in a literal 6-day week, 10,000 years ago. They're not all the same. And it's important to differentiate them. I'm simply making point number one, that as far as I can see, the text of the Bible does not discuss the actual age of planet Earth at all. It simply tells us in the beginning, whenever that was, God did it. What it now concentrates on is a sequence of days. Well, you say, now, let's get down to it. You just told us evening and morning, day 1, day 2, that's a 24-hour day. That's exactly what I said, ladies and gentlemen. But now let's think again. Because there's another little thing. If you look at the Bible, you usually see the first day, the second, the third, the fourth. That's not what the Hebrew says. Hebrew has a word for the, hayom, the day. It's not used for days 1 to 5. It's only used for days 6 and 7. That's intriguing. Because you see, if you were thinking of a normal Earth week, you would either have them all without the article or them all with the article. You certainly wouldn't go, not the first day, but day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5, the 6th day, the 7th day. Now, what does that mean? Well, that's very interesting, isn't it? Because you see, if we just think back, suppose you only had this page of Scripture. Forget science, forget everything else, just use logic on it and try to understand it. It's saying there is a sequence of days. We can presume they're 24-hour days, evenings and mornings. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, they're in sequence. And they're days in which, and God said. But nothing in the text demands that they're days of a single Earth week. They're the creation days on which God spoke. So here's a possibility. I wouldn't die for this, you know, although some of you might want me to die for it before I go tonight. But I'm only making a suggestion that opens up a vast possibility that what these days are is what they claim to be. God spoke. It didn't take him long to speak, if I might put it that way. And God said, and something happens. It might have taken a very long time for the potential of all of that to develop. And then sometime later, God speaks. And then sometime later, he speaks again. Which means, of course, that if there are any traces of this to be found, we would expect to find what we do find, the sudden appearance of new levels of complexity. Now, might I now make a very provocative statement? And I'm coming now to the end. And what I want to say is this, ladies and gentlemen. Genesis says very little, and the Bible says very little about how God did it. But what it does say is very important. Let me give you the New Testament version of it. In the beginning was the Word. And the Word was with God, and the Word was God. The same was in the beginning with God. All things came to be through him. That is through the Word. It's talking about existence. How you get something from nothing. They came to be through the Word. Now listen to the unpacking of that in Genesis 1. And God said the Word. And God said, and God said. And there are 2 days on which God speaks more than once. I hope you've noticed that. On day 3 and day 6. And on day 3, fascinatingly, it's to make the difference between what we would call the inorganic and life. Now, I'm going to word myself very carefully. In Scripture, you do not get from inorganic materials to life without and God said. On day 6, animals and human beings. You do not get from animals to human beings without and God said. Might I point out, however obscurantist it may seem, that is the exact opposite of random unguided evolution, ladies and gentlemen. That is God speaking. Do you know what the irony of the whole thing is? That in every one of the 100 trillion cells of my body and yours, there's the longest word that's ever been discovered. The human genetic code. 3.4 billion letters long. Now, you can do a little thought experiment. You go down to the beach on Long Island, if there is one, and you see metaxas written on the sand. What do you infer immediately? You infer an intelligent mind behind that. It's only about half a dozen letters or so, 10 letters or so. Immediately you infer upwards to
Just make up
intelligence.
10
You
letters.
don't know what sort of machines might have been used to write that in the sand, but what you know is you cannot explain it completely without an input from an intelligent mind. How is it, ladies and gentlemen? I sometimes drop this in the Oxford Common Room when things get boring. How is it that we can look at the 3.5 billion letters of the genetic alphabet in exactly the right order? And when asked, where does that come from? Chance and necessity. Really? Seems to me there's something very odd going on here. And as a scientist, I want to finish now and give you a chance for questions. It seems to me that when you look at these two worldviews, they're like this. Naturalism says, in the beginning, was mass energy, wherever that came from, they can't tell us. And all of that, of itself, produced, because there's no transcendence, produced the universe, produced life, produced you, produced your mind, and produced in it the idea of God, because there isn't a God. The other worldview is that mass energy is not primary, it's derivative. In the beginning was the Word, all things came to be through him. So you have the primacy of mass energy or the primacy of mind. And it seems to me, as a scientist, in the beginning was the Word makes infinitely better sense than the naturalistic view. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, I'm getting tired, I think. My body hurts. I'm worn out still. So I think I might call it here and try to get some rest and maybe have a decent stream tomorrow. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. Weather's changing, so it makes it more miserable for me in general. But, alright. Thank you for watching. God bless and have a good night.